Hospital Porters Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO TV. Welcome to this, the 63rd reply to comments video. This is the 63rd video in which I get to reply to your comments, as the title suggests. Now, you might think to yourself, why? Why are you making these videos? Well, because all my comments boxes are open, and when people make comments, I feel obliged to reply in some way. I don't have time to reply by text, but I do feel I should say something, because you guys take the time to put comments in there. Some of them are very nice and friendly and supportive. Some of them are very long and thoughtful. I think I deserve to say something. Some of you get into discussions with other viewers, so I feel obliged, I think, to say something. So I make these videos instead because I don't have time to reply by text. Now, these videos, some of you might say, well, I only want to reply to one comment. Why am I going to watch a 9-hour video just to get a reply to one comment? Well, first thing, you don't have to watch the whole video. You only have to watch up to an hour of it, because underneath every comment I reply to, I leave a comment of my own with a timestamp telling you which hour of the upcoming comments reply video I'm going to be answering that comment in. Also, my videos are not 9 hours any longer. My comments reply videos used to be very long, they used to be much longer, because I used to do them about once every 2 months or something. Now I do them about once every 2 or 3 weeks, which means they're never 9 hours long now. They may be 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours the most. Another reason I do these comments reply videos is I enjoy doing them. It's just fun, and what's more, you guys seem to like them too. They're very popular with my viewers. They get a lot of hits, and I know some of you watch them all the way through. So that's basically why I do them. So let's just go. Let's go to where I left off last time. The last comments reply video I posted, and the first person to comment is someone called John Fused, and that was on reply to comment 62, the last comments reply video. John says, "I love Chris Hansen." Oh right, Chris Hansen, I believe he's an American guy who is a news presenter or something. Okay, that's nice. I don't know him myself. He's one of these characters that the US have not exported, even in this world we live in now, where media is very transatlantic. This is one export we've never had. Reply to comment 62. Stephen Truthseeker. Hey Stephen, how you doing? He exists. I've met him. I used to have that Flash Gordon soundtrack by Queen. It's very good. It's very, very good. It's a great film, actually, great fun. Flash. Stephen also says on the same video, if GB News get David Icke on, I might take notice. Until then, I have no hope for news channels like that. Okay. Well, Stephen, honestly, if they had David Icke on, I would be very happy. I would be overjoyed. However, I don't think to me, that's not a line they need to cross for me to respect GB News and like what they do. I do hope, obviously, they will get David Icke on at some point. That would be absolutely brilliant if they did that. Reply to comment 62. Mart, we have here some spam, which I'm going to delete. Hugo Roon says on reply to comment 62. He added Gary Robinson here. Alright, thank you for the ayahuasca recommendation. Okay, right. Yeah, Hugo, it's worth a try, mate. Worth a try. And Hugo says also on reply to comment 62, as you are aware, I use cannabis and alcohol. I know you do very often, I must say, while you're actually posting comments. Reply to comment 62, Gary Robinson. Evening, Ben, mate. I didn't know that Tony Topping stormed out of an interview with James Whale, but I'm not surprised to hear that. Now, I'm looking for the recording. Apart from the clip that Tony put on Twitter, or James put it on Twitter, and Tony sort of replied. They ended up getting into a bit of a hoo-ha. I'd be interested to see the entire interview, or what was done of it. Tony has stormed out of interviews before, I must say. He stormed out of one called "Keep the Paranormal Friendly." A bit of an ironic title there. Yeah, and I don't know. I've never had any problems at all with Tony. I've always found Tony a very reasonable chap. He's not scared of being asked tough questions and things like that. I mean, he's actually been on the mainstream media a few times. He's been on Channel 4 and ITV and Channel 5. So I mean, he's on that BBC thing as well. That one they asked me to go on, and I told him to get stuffed. But I found him very reasonable. James, you say here, James Whale. I'll carry on with your comment. James Whale is a nasty bit of work, and I can't understand why anyone would want to listen to him. His co-presenter is equally disgusting. Oh, Ash, yeah. I unsubscribed to Talk Radio on YouTube simply to avoid seeing his vile face in my subscription feed. Around the same time, Richie Allen was regularly featuring clips of him and his scumbag co-presenter treating guests like dirt and humiliating them on the air. I don't want to sound like I believe that Richie has all the answers, but he explained on a number of occasions how many of the incidents on the James Whale show are actually broke broadcasting regulations. In regards to how badly his guests were treated. Too nasty, Nancy getting behind a studio radio station. Cheers. All right, Gary. James Whale. I think he's put on an act. It doesn't excuse him, but he's sort of acting the shock jock like he used to when he was on TV in the 80s. He used to do this show late at night in the 80s. I used to stay up and watch it when I was a kid. He was like that. He was a dickhead to everyone who called in. He had this little button he used to press, and whenever he did it, he cut the caller off. And he used to make a big theatrical thing out of pressing the button. Obviously, the button didn't do it, but whenever he pressed the button, so whoever was in the gallery controlling the phone-ins just cut the line. And he sort of relished in his reputation for being a dickhead. Later on, when he started on Talk Radio, he actually became sensible for a while because he had an NDE. He had like an out-of-body experience. It made him quite wise for a while. He is capable of doing good shows on this subject. You know why? Because he had David Icke on the show. He had Timothy Good. He did a really, really good interview with Timothy Good about UFOs. Now he's reverted to type, and I think it's deliberate. So I can understand why he wound Tony up the wrong way. Reply to comment 62, Stephen Truthseeker. Nope, I disagree. That guy needed throwing out at the conference because, by the sounds of it, he was there under false pretenses, peddling his government bull. All right, I have to disagree with you, Stephen. I think he was there. He was being sincere. He turned up for sincere reasons and posted something that most people didn't agree with. But the way to deal with that is to explain, is to challenge, to explain, to debate. He's probably far less likely to change his mind now than he's ever going to. I mean, it's but of course that's the problem though. I mean, do you draw a line at a certain point? I don't know. It's up. The conference organizer has a right to choose things like, what if Richard Dawkins wanted to speak at the basis? God forbid. Things like that. You know what I mean? So the conference organizer, I think, can choose who they have at the conference. But just throwing someone out for just putting a little movie on, I think, was out of order. Gary Robinson says in reply to comment 62. Hey Ben, in regards to Star Wars being influenced by Dune, I am going to see if I can track down an official reference to this. We talked about this before, didn't we? Like I said in my previous comment, George has never admitted the connection, but Gary Kurtz did let a few things slip in the last few years of his life, which were previously unknown. One of these was the fact that they tried to get the rights to make a Flash Gordon movie. Gary also leaked the original ending of Return of the Jedi, which saw Princess Leia taking over the Empire as she realised that the only way to maintain control was to keep it going. The last scene would have shown Luke essentially hanging up his hat and walking off into the sunset of Tatooine. Cheers. Oh dear. That wouldn't have been half as good a film, Gary. It really wouldn't. It would have been a pretty awful film. I wonder where there was a reference. I mean, I know that. I'm familiar with both Dune and Star Wars, and I must say, you can see the similarity in certain things. For example, there's no official statement anywhere that Lucas was influenced. Even Lucas said he didn't direct. Lucas didn't direct Return of the. He didn't direct Empire Strikes Back actually, but he was obviously very influenced. But it was obviously very much his work. But he didn't state anywhere that he'd been influenced by Carlos Castaneda for the Dagobah, Luke and Yoda's interactions. But it's very obvious he was, if you're familiar with the story. Unless it's an amazing coincidence. If you're familiar with the Carlos Castaneda books, I've read all the main 4 books. You can see the similarity very clearly. Dune, there's similarities between Dune and Star Wars, which I think are very interesting. Gary Robinson says, hey Ben mate, while we're on the subject of pop culture and Star Wars, I'm not sure if you know this, but I think we're at the point of no return with Star Wars. Now it has been destroyed by the woke mob that run Lucasfilm. Yeah, really, Star Wars should have ended with Return of the Jedi. I mean, there's possibly a case to be made for the prequels, but the sequel trilogy, absolutely not. They're awful. Gary says the CEO of Disney has started making moves against high-ranking woke members of staff, has publicly fired one guy recently, who a woke organisation that admitted to following an agenda to insert inappropriate things into Disney films and TV shows. Yeah, well, you see, Gary, at the end of the day, they need bums on seats. I mean, I know I've heard people lamenting, oh, they got woke, but they didn't go broke. Oh, come on, you know, they have a lot of reserve capital. But at the end of the day, you know, I think many people in dissident circles, I think they attribute to the bad guys almost magical powers of omnipotent evil. You know, in a sense, they're just like, well, they don't need money. You know, the laws of economics don't apply to these nasty Illuminati. You know, they can make films for nothing. Nonsense. The truth of the matter is they must realise that if people aren't going to go and watch the films at the end of the day, they can't fund them. That's the thing. And I think that penny is dropping with a lot of them now. I mean, the latest Ghostbusters film, you know, is a departure from the woke ones. Dave Cullen has reported that Star Trek seems to be getting off that bandwagon now. I think it's possible. I'm hoping. I mean, maybe it's too much to hope for, but this is like a lost weekend. This is a period of insanity which has now run its course. Reality has bitten back, and they now realise they can't do it anymore. Anyway, in regards to Star Wars, they recently released the Obi-Wan TV show, in which he is now pathetic and has to be rescued by a woman in almost every episode. This has been followed by a book where Obi-Wan is now interested in both men and women. Oh, God. It's a lost cause now, mate. Many fans have lost all hope. Cheers. Yeah. Yep. Gary, I gave up. I mean, I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. I like it. The prequel trilogies, that was it. I did watch the films. I know I even reviewed a couple of them, but God bloody hell, they were awful. I'm not watching any more of them. Reply to comment 62, Gary Robinson. I like what you said about Star Wars being an attempt to create a medieval fantasy environment in space. That's a good way of describing it, mate. Cheers. Oh, you're welcome. Do you know what, Gary? That's Dune is like that in a way. I mean, the Dune society is very different from, for example, the utopianism of Star Wars. It's set in the future amidst high technology, although I must say it has a slightly steampunk feel to it. I mean, the Lynch film is even more so. It's even more steampunk, but as you find out, the computers, they've sort of abandoned electronics, and not only that, the society itself is has aristocracies and things like that. It's much more feudal. Star Wars, of course, is very, as I said, it's a utopian sci-fi drama. It's set in a futuristic post-capitalist kind of a post-capitalist world, really, inclusive democracy. And you know, the crew of the Enterprise. I mean, I don't know. I love the crew of the Enterprise. I love the characters. But you can see, in a sense, if someone made that today, it would probably be called wokeism. They've got they don't only have an alien from the planet Vulcan among the crew. They also have a Scotsman, Swahili-speaking black woman, a Russian guy, and a Japanese guy. I mean, that's you can see that it tells you, even though very little of the Star Wars TOS is actually set on Earth. I think there's one episode that takes place on Earth. It tells you an awful lot about what the Earth is like. But Dune and Star Wars are totally different. 62, reply to comment 60, Gary Robinson. Strangely enough, Ben, after listening to your comments about Carlos Castaneda's influence on Star Wars, we went out that evening to a local book fair, and my missus bought one of his books. It's in Spanish, so I've not read it. All right, I think she's local, isn't she? She speaks Spanish. it's a good idea to read them in order. Start with the teachings of Don Juan. I tried starting with the separate reality, and it didn't make much sense to me because they're kind of like one story, but they're very interesting. They're very interesting stories. I mean, even if they are made up, I think they're incredible. They're very, very, very interesting. It tells the diary of a guy who basically goes through shamanic training with an Amerindian, a guy called Don Juan, who's a Icke Indian. And he travels all over a place like Mexico and New Mexico. Oh, it's very interesting indeed. Obviously, my character Flying Buffalo is somewhat influenced on Don Juan, I must say. But you know, if she's doing ayahuasca therapy, and I'm guessing you're going to do it at some point. This is the perfect book to read. It really is. You get it's translated in multiple languages. I got English copy. Very easily got English copies of the 4 main books. Gary says in reply to comment 62, I'm very impressed you've read Splinter of the Mind's Eye, Ben. That was originally commissioned by George Lucas as a story that could be made into a cheap sequel in the event that the first movie was a flop. Not many people know about that, mate. Do you still have a copy? I don't even have a copy of it. I have somewhere. I think it's not here. I think it might. I don't know how much of my stuff my dad has kept in his house. I'll have to ask him about it, but it's a good story actually. Yeah, it's what's interesting though. It's obviously there are kind of contradictions that's based on the actual sequels that were done, because this was like a sequel that was never made into a movie. It was commissioned by George Lucas, written by Alan Dean Foster. It's actually good that Alan Dean Foster actually got to write the story first. That's actually quite good. Normally, Foster simply adapts the stories made up by Lucas, and I don't know if he adapts them gets to see the film first, or just Lucas just hands him the script and says, "Look here, make a novel out of that." Novelizations, he does something creative with them anyway. But Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the basic contradiction is that it's very obvious if you read the book that Leia is not Luke's sister, which of course, so that contradicts what happens later in the actual sequel that was actually produced as a movie. It's good. It's a good story, though. It's a good story. I do have a copy of it somewhere. I'll try and find out, Gary, for you. I'll scan it for you if I do. I mean, you can probably buy it still. 62 Hugo Rune. Carlos Castaneda. I only managed the first book, Don Juan, but honestly, I couldn't read the rest. All right, it's not toilet reading, Hugo. It's quite absorbing. You've got to sort of put mental space aside to get into it, which is difficult these days. Especially, I mean, a lot of people don't actually even do that. Yeah. But I find it fascinating. I did find it very interesting. The first one especially is really interesting. Same video, Hugo, 42:54 onwards. Right, I have a timestamp. Oh, pardon me. This is for the. Would you admit you are an imperfect god? Basis 2022. Carlos Castaneda. All right. Onward. You ask if I am an imperfect god. Yes, I'm a cripple. Lol. Oh, Hugo. Here you go. All right. Yes. You're probably more like one of those James Bond bad guys, then, aren't you? Oh, I was going to say Henry Potter. Now, Henry Potter's an amazing character from It's a Wonderful Life, because he has his wheelchair is like, it looks like a sort of mobile Dracula's castle. If you may not have seen that film, but you may have seen my review of it. He's like a guy who's confined to a wheelchair, but he's horrible. He's mean. He's a nasty nasty person. I'm sure you're not like that, Hugo. Reply to comment 62, Hugo Rune. Neil Geddes Ward, thanks for reminding me, Ben. And now I got the tab open there. Now got a tab open there. We'll peruse. I don't know what you mean, Hugo. Sorry, is that part of a thread? No, it's not. 62 Gary Robinson. Hey Ben, in regards to what the live stream recordings UK said about the artworks found at Pickett's End in Hemel Hempstead, this is of course my hometown in the UK. Right, yes, that's the medieval artworks that were found. Basically, they've been whitewashed over at the time of the Reformation just to save them, and they were uncovered sometime in the 1950s. I knew about the paintings and have often walked in the Pickett's End area, as it's very picturesque, but I had no idea that the artwork was related to the Cathars. I do remember the artwork being found in one of the houses, and it was renovated. Pickett's End land is only a couple of miles long, but it's all the houses are very old. Cheers. We never know, Gary, they might find more paintings there. Yeah, the connection to the Cathars I don't quite understand, because the actual house and paintings date back. They came sometime in, I think it was 15 something, which is about 300 years after the Cathars were purged from southern France. Is it possible some of them escaped the Montségur siege? Yes. Have they carried on in secret after that? Maybe. You never know. 62 Hugo Rune. No vax here, my immune system is perfect. Yeah, good for you, Hugo. Well done. I think a lot of people feel like, a lot of people who took the stance that I did, and we did, about the vaccines, I personally feel very relieved based on the latest news. And I think a lot of people who took it are very, very regretted an awful lot. My world travels have primed my immune system. Malaria and dengue, both viruses. I continued working through. Yes, I suffered, but I was fit enough to fight it, and it only made my immune system fitter. So this COVID virus, I shrug it off. Honestly, I never suffered colds or flu. Good for you, Hugo, and please. And we got a timestamp here. The Nottinghamshire Roswell incident near Mansfield, 1987. Wow. Near me, then. Please remind me. All right, well, you can check out my videos, the Knots Roswell, Hugo, or the speech I gave to the Birmingham UFO group. That's probably the best one to go with, because it's shorter. It's, I'm speaking there again, actually, in a couple of months. There we are. So check those out. Gary, there's a timestamp there. I won't click that now, though, Hugo. Ben, mate, for anyone, this is Gary Robinson, who might want to visit the Pickett's End paintings, I think it's worth mentioning that the area they're in makes for a good day out, as long as you don't have to drive too far to get to Hemel Hempstead. The land itself is an Instagrammer's wet dream, as every one of the cottages and houses look amazing, and the residents don't mind people taking photos in front of them, or even if you sit on their old stone doorsteps for photos. At the end of the lane is a roundabout, and across that is Hemel Hempstead Old Town Centre, which is a very old street full of shops and restaurants, and is used in the filming of The Afterlife by Ricky Gervais, and also Humans, the show about androids. It was also used in the TV show Pie in the Sky back in the 90s. There's a very nice church in the old High Street, with one of the oldest church spires in the country. The church grounds are always open and contain some very interesting trees. The grounds then lead into Gadebridge Park, which is a very pretty nice park. The old High Street is said to have underground tunnels, but supposedly no one has ever found them. Not yet. I think that most of the pubs are haunted as well. You could try getting down there to make a video. If I was still living there, I could have played tour guide. Cheers. Gary, good idea, mate. Good idea. Pickett's End. Maybe get a chance to go there at some point. Like when I went to Stanton Harcourt. Yeah, not Stanton Harcourt. What's it called? The place I went to, Sophie the Porter Poet's relative. Yeah. But it sounds lovely, Gary. Excuse me. Never been there, but it sounds lovely. It really does, yeah. Reply to comment 62, Hugo Rune. I was a telecoms engineer, worked globally, so electronics and such stuff, but no, I was not able to come up with a free energy device. Sorry, edit. That is sorry to Steve Mumbling, but Steve Mumbling will be pleased. But no, I know Richard D. Hall tried to make a free energy device once in his home. I don't know how much success he had. I think he probably didn't succeed. Otherwise, he would have told us. Yeah. Yeah. But there's different types of free energy devices. Definitely. Gary Robinson replied to comment 62. Hey Ben, in regards to non-USA citizens entering the USA, unfortunately you do indeed have to prove you've been given the dose. Yeah, so I found out from Jamnoise72. You should check her videos out. She's just had one, and she just had a bloody blow, thinking she can't go and visit her daughter, which unfortunately is true. A negative test is not enough. I don't think they're going to be removing this rule. I often wonder if I'll get to visit the USA ever again. I recently heard Max Egan on Richie Allen saying that he now lives in the north of Mexico like myself, and he's planning on visiting the USA very soon. since he's also close to the border. He's going to have a shock come in to him when he tries to cross it if he's not had the dose. He's very open about his thoughts on the dose. So if he ends up being able to cross that, it can only mean he's ended up taking it. Yeah, I don't think Max will, Gary, which means he won't be able to get into the USA. The rule is still there, and as I think Joe Biden in the White House or wherever he is unfortunately going to make that more and more of a problem. I don't think, as long as Biden is there in control, that's not going to end. Obviously, if Trump was still there, it would have been chucked out at the first opportunity, this rule. But with Biden, no. And that's a great shame. It's a terrible thing. And Jamnoy72, if you watch her video, her daughter, who lives, I think it's is Arizona, she lives now. Jackie can't go and visit her. Jackie's not seen her for ages. I mean, Louisa lives 20 minutes walk from me. Imagine if she was on so far away. I'd feel awful, just like Jam Noise does. Hugo Rune says here on a separate comment: free energy. I repeat, I was a telecoms engineer. The basics. Is this free energy? All right, we have it. At Steve Mumbling, right? We have a. What do we have here? You have a link. It's just a link. Oh, ads. It's just a YouTube link. You want ads? Sorry, there's loads of ads on this. It's called How to Make a Crystal Radio. No batteries. All right. Oh, this is infested. There's 2 long ads with no skip buttons. If there's another ad after this, I'm not going to watch. Alright, how to make a DIY crystal radio, how to build no special... Right.
This is a DIY crystal radio. They were very popular in the 1920s. Yeah. They require no external power to operate, no batteries, no power, nothing. They operate strictly on the radio waves that are coming in. Oh, so if you're looking for something, an emergency radio, where when the power is out or you won't have batteries or whatever, this is the thing to have.
Okay, this is 21 minutes long, so I'm not going to watch all of that, Hugo, but yeah. Steve Mumbling's replies. Right, Steve Mumbling's response to this atting. Of course not. Nor was the Wardenclyffe Tower, that's the point. But see, the Wardenclyffe Tower was an experiment to transmit energy, Steve. But that's what Tesla had in mind. Yeah, he was going to transmit and receive energy from the atmosphere. Do a little research and you'll find diagrams showing the lower dome connected to a high power frequency generator, and the other pole of the generator connected to an elaborate ground system. With your background, you should easily see what a lot of crap Tesla free energy nonsense is. Well, if you read the book by David Hatcher Childress, Steve, you'll find that's not the case. But I mean, the Wardenclyffe Tower was not meant to be the finished article. It was an experiment. It was an experimental station. It wasn't designed. It was designed to test a principle, to demonstrate a principle. Reply comment 62 Hugo Rune at Steve Mumbling. Honestly, I'd love to chat and challenge you in person, but I'm not able to travel. Bring a camp bed. I'll provide beer, or we could go to my local if you could help me out there. Oh, that's nice. Hugo's actually invited me as well, which I'd love to do at some point. Steve Mumbling. Thanks for the invite, Hugo, but you know, I'm in Australia, right? Hugo. Honestly, I forgot that. Forgive me. Thanks for reminding me. Again, sorry. Steve, no worries. Hugo Rune on reply to comment 62. Moon and tide, check it out. It's low tide under the moon. It is low tide under the moon. All right, I will do. I mean, I know that there's like two. It doesn't like the. It's not as simple as the sea just like bulging. The sea bulges out towards the moon. There's like a bulge at the other end as well. So it's like an egg-shaped thing. Hugo Rune replied to comment 62. What a coincidence. I happen to have a tab on UFO Season 1. Oh, right. What's this then? Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, wicked. Oh, this is this great series. How many of you seen this? Oh, wicked. Very good. That very good. Yeah, it's that's a series. That's a TV series by Jerry Anderson. I think from like the late '60s. And it's about and funny enough, Hugo had this open. Hugo, there are no coincidences in this world. It was meant to be. Happened to be watching it. Yeah, it's about It's a futuristic story about aliens. The Earth is basically under attack by aliens, and there's an Earth Defense Force created to protect them. It's not like the fake aliens, though. They're real aliens. Steve Mumbling replied to comment 62. As usual, you completely missed the point. Your argument is disclosure could provide free energy for desalination plants in Africa, etc., etc. Well, that's what I said, yeah. The Meriden solar power plant could easily run a desalination plant. The technology to do that is here today. Solar plants are reliable and require little maintenance. That's the truth. Well, that's not what I heard, Steve. I mean, if that is the truth, why is it that, you have George Monbiot's and Mark Linuses and all these other green nutcases are totally against them? These explain. David, in fact, in that did you watch Planet of the Humans, or did you watch my review of Planet and the Humans? I mean, if there's mistakes been made in there, please do point them out. David Smith, not to worry, Steve. He will address this comment in the next comments reply video. David says yes, indeed. And David, as you can see here, I said, thanks for your comment. It will be answered approximately within the first hour of the upcoming reply to comments video. Yes. Steve Mumbling replied to comment 62. The spider monsters are just holes in the ground. All right, is this your video, Steve? Because I've already watched it. I actually put a comment on there.
Where?
Yeah, I've already put a comment on here. Where was it? What comment did I put on there? Oh yeah, I said here maybe those structures wouldn't be included. Right, what Steve? This video is only 8 minutes long. He talks about those weird spider sort of squid structures you saw in the field in Turkey. Now, there's what Steve has done is he's used elevation stats on Google Earth to prove that these things are actually represent holes in the ground because they're slightly lower than the surrounding landscape. However, as I say here in my comment, I did it under my backup account. Maybe those structures wouldn't be included in GMAP elevation stats. You're simply measuring the ground underneath them. And what's happened here? Someone called Stalin Loves FBI, CIA, fake MSM. Oh God, says they're dead giant spiders. Edit, I believe you, but WTF are they? Why are there holes like that? Yeah. And David underneath says giant spiders and black goo. Whatever next. Sorry. Steve replies here. Fright not. Google Earth uses digital elevation model data collected by NASA's shuttle radar topography mission, enabling 3D views of the whole Earth. Google Earth also supports managing 3D geospatial data through the keyhole map markup language. Well, not necessarily, Steve. Are you sure those spiders, whatever they are you sure that is whatever was there actually is the statistic, is actually what you're talking about? For example, if a car was parked there, would that... Cars obviously are about 4 feet above the ground, most cars. They're from their roof to where they hit the ground. If you hovered your cursor over that, would it say it was 4 feet higher? It all depends on when this data was actually gathered. It's always possible that what NASA is actually measuring here, what the digital elevation model actually is using, is actually sensing, is maybe some indentations in the ground made by the giant spiders, or whatever they are. See, they look more like those things you find. But anyway, maybe that's what it is, Steve. Anyway, I'm not here to answer comments on other people's channels, it's on mine. Israel Diego Rivera, genius to the real genius, says here, Ben, take ayahuasca on a live stream so we can see what happens. See if you start channeling spirits. Oh, blimey. Charlie Veach did that, and it was he looked very ill, actually. No, if I go on an ayahuasca therapy, I'll be doing it properly, setting, things like that. I'll be going to a proper retreat. I go through the proper preparation process like Graham Hancock did. It's not something you can treat lightly. It's something you have to take very seriously indeed. It's the word psychonaut is not a coincidence. It means you are literally going on a journey. It's why they call it a trip, and you have to do it very sensibly. So no, I'm not going to do that, Diego Rivera. Reply to comment 62, Dark Corners UK. Hi again, Ben. Thanks for your reply to my comment on the aforementioned time slip. As someone with what I consider to be a healthy dose of skepticism on such matters, my first thought was perhaps I had read the time wrong. However, as you rightly mentioned, on the time on the phone's clock is quite large, so I would say quite unlikely, although not impossible. I also considered the possibility of a technical fault with the phone's international clock, although after some investigation I discovered that while such occurrences can happen with digital timepieces, the software involved makes it extremely rare. As you mentioned in your reply, perhaps what I experienced was a premonition of sorts, perhaps some kind of time slip. I haven't had any more occurrences of this kind since this initial incident. However, for about a week following this, I had the most tremendous migraine headaches I've ever had in my life. Is there a link? Or is this just a coincidence? Funny, I thought to myself how this time slip occurred only days after the people at CERN turned on the Large Hadron Collider. Another coincidence, or is there a link? I'd be interested to know if anyone else in the woo community has experienced any similar occurrences in the past few weeks. Me too. Well, thanks for sharing that, and I did find it interesting. Unfortunately, Dark Corners UK, it's impossible to prove. Very often it's this person having a sort of experience. Like my own time slip only lasted a few seconds, and it literally happened while I was sitting in a seat in the middle of the basis conference, and I didn't go anywhere. It was obviously something I just went in my head. But it's a strange. I would myself would be curious to know if this has happened more often. I'd be curious to know if incidents of the Mandela effect are increasing as well with the restart of CERN. That would fascinate me enormously. Reply to comment 62, TK. Well, why didn't the aliens tell Tony Topping not to do the interview that went badly? Is this proof that the aliens are not on our side, or at least don't care if the media make Tony Topping look silly? Not at all, TK. The aliens are not obliged to tell him to direct his life and tell him what to do in his life. Tony has been given prime directive freedom to do whatever he wants in that respect. The aliens, are the aliens not on our side? Well, some of them aren't, no, and some of them don't care. Others do. It's possible that Tony does know some that are very much on his side. Whether they certainly didn't want to make him look silly, but it's possible they weren't in a position to stop him or to advise him. TK says on reply to comment 62, so there you are, lowering the bar. Dr. K says it's debatable that Shakespeare was from Stratford-on-Avon, one person, and that's that, it's debatable. It isn't debatable unless you want to completely waste your time. Well, I don't think I'm lowering any bar, TK. Nick Holostrom, actually, what he's saying is that he presents a certain amount of evidence, and he's not the only one. I think they're called anti-Stratfordians, I think they're called. He presents some interesting facts. For example, the samples of William Shakespeare's handwriting. It's pretty obvious that the guy is semi-literate. He has the reading age of an 8-year-old, which is what you would expect considering his background. In 16th century Warwickshire, he was given a basic education at a church school. But the actual plays he allegedly wrote are obviously works of enormous sophistication and creativity by someone who's learned, knows history, knows geography, who's not only a very good writer, but knows these things, and also went to the castle in Denmark, Hamlet's castle in Denmark. They must have gone there. I mean, someone said, like, the descriptions of the castle and its layout, these come out in the play, and it's very obvious it was written by someone who visited that castle, because it's still there. You can visit it today. Okay, reply to comment 62. Gary Robinson says, my wife has had another ayahuasca session last night, Ben, and it was a pretty intense experience. One of the most profound things she told me was that she connected with some beings that she understood to be high spiritual masters who explained, so I've got to put the fan on, who explained to her that the abundance of everything we need in life is there for us so long as we use everything we are given for good purposes and for the benefit of others and not just ourselves. She was given an understanding that for us to be able to obtain things that we want in abundance, we also need to have the right frame of mind and the right attitude. She also mentioned that another girl at the group was crying and wailing because she was processing and removing pain from her brothers, and she wasn't able to handle the bandwidth of emotions. Isabel was able to help her by somehow plugging into the situation and helping to process the pain. This has made me think a lot about emotions and feelings, and how there must be a lot of them that we can't perceive in our reality. She also had an experience that shows her that many of our ancestors exist in a state beyond this world, where they focus on supporting us in this life by watching over us and giving us strength. She told me that for whatever reason she freed them from that state. This brings up a lot of questions as to what happens when we leave this world, as it suggests there are different states of being and different realms with different purposes. She also mentioned that some of the other people in the group who had drunk ayahuasca saw her as being levitated. Cheers. Wow, Gary. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you, Mrs. Robinson. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Thanks. Really appreciate. Obviously, she's given you permission to talk about that, and I appreciate that very much. And I think it's only a matter of time where you end up following. And the Carlos Castaneda books you'll find very interesting in that respect. That's very similar to what Graham Hancock talks about. How it sounds like she got what the drug did deliver what it promised in this case by giving her. It doesn't for everyone all the time, every time, but it sounds like she met what Graham Hancock calls the spirit of ayahuasca, where it's one of the benevolent beings that does say things like that, and they'll say these sort of things to anyone who actually has the ability to access their realm. Terence McKenna talks about this as well. Rick Strassman, about the meetings with the spirits that can be found. Oddly enough, different chemicals often produce different experiences with different spirits. But that's really, it's nice. She also had the ability to guide the others, and it sounds like she has been. Maybe she has leadership qualities within this sort of field. And she was actually put in a position to guide this other young woman in the group. Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? It's just do some research. The Carlos Castaneda books, I wouldn't say they're the best things when it comes to actual research. Much better is Supernatural by Graham Hancock, DMT, the Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman. There's a couple of the books by Terence McKenna. I can't remember the titles. I've read two of them. I can't remember the titles. But the one where he goes into the Amazon with his brother, I think he did that around about 1970. He and his brother took a trip to the Amazon. Incredible stories. Yeah. Thanks, Gary. Thank you very much. Excellent comment. I almost forgot to click the love heart there. Steve Mumbling replies here. Sounds like you need a new wife. Oh, fuck off, Steve, you dickhead. You really are a twat sometimes. I'm not going to delete your comment. It's just because Gary replies here. Let's just see what she has to say to Steve. Well, to be fair, she's Mexican, smoking hot, and she looks like Jessica Alba, so that's a good trade-off. So long as their housework is done to above adequate standards, I'm happy to let her out now and again on the understanding she wears a GPS tag at times. Good reply, Steve. Sometimes ridicule is the best defense. It really is. Steve's being a fucking dickhead there. You really. That's a nasty comment to make, Steve. If Gary hadn't riposted so well with that very witty, very disarming rejoinder, I would have deleted your comment. Now you're always accusing me of deleting your comments. I'll tell you when I delete your comments, Steve. Don't worry. I won't try to do it behind your back, and I would have deleted that one. I'm not going to do that though when Gary can stand up to you so well. Reply to comment 62. Ravenhill, the Sky Dark Tower Merchant 1968 says, hello Ben, just a bit of news. Did you hear about Anne-Marie Waters for Britain closing down her party and quitting? I think that is sad news as the country needs her fight more than ever now. Do you have any thoughts on this? Good night. Alright, I've heard about it, I haven't looked at it much, but she probably made a video at some point. I bet she's probably made a Britain. Let's see if is the YouTube channel still there for Britain, because I mean, no, it's still there. Yeah, let's have a look. No, this 1 month ago, For Britain Live, 4th of July. It's a 55-minute thing. Okay, but what about her own personal channel? Let's have a look. Let's see. She says something on her personal channel. A.M. Waters. Let's have a look. No, nothing for 3 months. So I don't know about it personally. Whoops, sorry, I'm still on. Sorry, I'm still on. I kept it on display capture. Sorry about that, guys. Let's remember not to do that. So no, I didn't know about that, Ravenhill. I didn't, but it's possible. I mean, I remember that she set up, once she set up the party. What's his name? He had this thing called Liberty GB. He disbanded Liberty GB and joined her. So it could be she's going to join someone else. I don't know. Maybe she wants to absorb her party into something else and be active within something else. However, despite the fact that she brings up a lot of very, very good issues to do with globalism, but also the grooming gangs and things like that. She doesn't seem to understand. A lot of people on the distant right experience. They don't understand the true cause of what's going on, and therefore can't envisage a proper solution. For her, rather like with Tommy Robinson, for her the New World Order is Islam. I assert Islam is simply it's being forced to play a role within the New World Order agenda. Anyway, I think that is sad. I think not least because I found her quite entertaining. But there you go. That's. I don't know much more about it than this because I'm not actually aware of it. But there you go. BZ Garson says, what was she fighting for? What was For Britain for? For Britain was a civic nationalist party that was campaigning on things such as mass immigration, Islamization, things like that, multiculturalism. Anne-Marie Waters used to be a leftist. She was in the Labour Party, and yeah. I just want to work out how long I was on that I was doing that stupid. It's probably down here from Steve's Spider Monsters thing. In which case, I won't bother reshooting it. It's all right. Here we go then. Right, Gary Robinson replied to comment 62. Hey Ben, in regards to the Westworld TV show, it's actually in its 4th series and has changed very much since it began. It was Al Watts a bit messed up. I think it meant always, but now it's gone full mental. Cheers. Right. I've never seen it, Gary. I think we mentioned... I can't remember the context with which we discussed it last time, except there's a film called Westworld with Yul Brynner playing this sort of cowboy-like figure who's actually a robot. It's actually a world in which there are... people enter sort of fantasy... go on fantasy adventures. A live-action role-playing in which there are robots... who have humanoid, very, very, very realistic humanoid robots that play roles within it, and Brynner plays this kind of he plays this, what's the word, a cowboy type character. Gary again on reply to comment 62. Hi Ben, I forgot to mention that my wife brought home some ayahuasca microdosing products that come in little glass bottles where they pop it a bit like CBD oil. Apparently you can take a couple of drops and have certain benefits without the full-on experience. Not sure if I'm going to try it yet. Cheers. I'm not sure. Obviously, like I would take the advice from whoever's running the retreat. I think, Gary. I mean, it sounds like it's from what your wife has experienced. It sounds like it's a proper one, and there are very few decent ones on my side of the Atlantic. Plenty on yours. But you can see how it goes. I mean, you could try one of those, but at some point she's probably going to drag you along for a full-length quaff. All right, so here we go. Gary Robinson. I've just watched Tony Topping's interview with James Whale, and I feel very bad for Tony. He needs an agent or manager who can stop him appearing on shows with scumbags like James Whale, who are only getting him on so they can make fun of him. Tony, I don't know what Tony sort of runs things himself, I think. I mean, Tony, I did advise Tony not to take part in the TV documentaries he took part in. I'm not sure an agent would... It depends what kind of agent he gets. Maybe you could do it for him, because I know you do that sort of thing. It was very obvious, Gary continues, it was very obvious from the beginning that Whale was going to be aggressive, dismissive and rude in response to every single answer that Tony gave him. This is part of his workflow, of course, and being the nasty bit of work that he is, he understands that his approach will result in the guests getting angry and walking out, or it will lead to them getting emotional like Tony did, which in turn allows Wales to up his game and hurt Tony even more. A good example of this is when he shoots Tony down for saying that James was one of his childhood heroes. Either way, he gets the show filled with aggro, which I'm guessing he thinks will propel him to the next level of the pyramid. In my opinion, Wales' approach of his show in general doesn't work. He's just a Poundland Piers Morgan. A Poundland Piers. James Whale is he's a silly shock jock. I wish he'd stayed with his sensible, because he was a kind of sensible broadcaster for a while, like I explained. I don't know why he couldn't just stay that way. It would be nice if he could just stay that way and not turn into the knobhead that he turned into, which is it's a great shame he did that. But there you go. I've not seen the whole interview yet. I'm waiting for it to be uploaded onto James's channel. I do actually follow him, but Tony, I've always found a very reasonable person. I've never had a problem with him before. I think if you could, I think it's okay to ask Tony tough questions. I've always found that if you're respectful to him, he'll be respectful to you. So I'm guessing that, also based on other programs James Whale has done, I'm guessing that James did play his wind-up merchant game with Tony and messed with him. As you say, it's just his role now in TV. It gets him views. It's click fodder, basically. Yeah. It's some people. It's the drama. The drama addicts would tune into it. Unfortunately, there are people in the truth movement like that. So I'm assuming. David Icke books the full set. Now it's not the full set anymore because I made this video years ago. But Tony Woodham says, read the books, then draw your conclusions. But he's always very close to the truth. I'm not sold on the lizard people, but that's just me needing more information. That's fair enough, Tony. David himself says, David himself says, you're getting a love heart, mate. That's a good one. David himself actually says, if you read the books, if anything in the book doesn't resonate with you, ignore it. He simply says that, ignore it. He's very, very keen for people to make up their own minds. Very keen indeed. Right, reply to comment 62. Annoying bastard. That's a good name. Are there any conspiracies you don't believe and follow? Goodness me, you don't have to live up to your name. So annoying bastard. Yes, I don't believe the Earth is flat. I don't believe Bill Hicks is Alex Jones. I don't believe Lewis Hamilton is Barack Obama's love child. There's a whole. I'm not some wide-eyed loon, I don't just say things off the top of my head. If I say I believe there's a conspiracy related to this, that, or the other, I provide reasons for why I think that way, and I'm open to comments for people to disagree with me, and they do. Right, Jacob's Ladder Watch Party introduction. Annoying bastard again. Oh. Do you know how ridiculous you look wearing that hat back to front? This one. I don't think I do. I don't think I do look ridiculous. You may think, if you think I do, go and watch another video. Then you like Marley Pumpkin. You're going to be like this Marley Pumpkin, aren't you? Marley's like those two old guys in the private box at the Muppet Show. Why do we always come here? I guess we'll never go. Yeah, I don't think I look ridiculous at all. The reason I wear it back to front is because the peak, as you can see here, is gone. So if I put it this way round, just sort of goes like that, you see. So it doesn't look as good, does it? It doesn't look so good. I could try it for a while and see how it goes, but that's not as good. But anyway, let's just see. I mean, I'll wear it for a little while, and people can make up their own minds. But I'm not doing it as a favour to you, annoying bastard. I'm just doing it for an experiment. But it's actually the Australian flag, as you can see, and it actually says on there. It says actually on this side, Australia. It says Australia. There we go. Right, is the microphone still on? Yes, it is. Blade Pale Rider says on Oxford Graffiti 2, love it, thanks for sharing, I like it when you go walkabout. Oh, you're very welcome, Pale Rider. I've made another video like that since. Steve Mumbling says, reply to comment 62, you may find this interesting, Ben. Oh, this is... Oh, I know what this is. Yep, I know what this is.
Bass was contracted to perform all of ALSAP's technical research and analysis.
Oh, no, it's not. Right.
Book local jobs with Google's local services ads.
Oh, fucking ads. That one. I'll just show it to you.
Because here is an actual Pentagon document acknowledging Bass as the contract recipient. Bass was founded by millionaire and longtime Harry Reid financial supporter Robert Bigelow.
I know.
Within the Bass
this is called the UFO Lie, Shocking Truth of Pentagon ORSAT Program. Oh, this is the basement office. Oh, I like that guy. I like him. What's his name? The little geeky guy. Yeah, him. This guy. Where is he? Where is he? This bloke.
And was Harry Reid aware of the ghosts and goblins? Well, I guess it depends on which version
He's quite cool.
Of his story you want to believe.
Oh, this is 43 minutes long. Steve, all right, Steve. This is going to surprise. Right, first of all, I wrote here. I've not deleted any of your comments. Okay, check out. Just cut it out with this passé nonsense. All right, that was just me. I addressed him with a tag. I'm still on. I've got to remember to quit the bloody screen share, haven't I? I don't want you seeing all of my porn tabs. God. Now, so Steve, I'm aware of I'm aware of some of what's in that. I've not watched that video yet, but I'm aware of what's his name's the guy. I'm aware of his opinions on Bigelow and that, and I know about the role that Bass played with ATIP, and I know that basically all the usual suspects have come out, and all the backslappers and the shillheads have come out and said, well, there you are then. It's a foregone conclusion. 100% sure that Bigelow is a shill. And things like that. But yeah, Steve, I will watch that and I will find it interesting. Believe it or not, I do look at different perspectives in this particular story. So thanks for the recommendation. I might even do a breakdown of it. I'll let you know what I think of it anyway. All right. David Smith says, I'll reply to comment 62. A lot of old stories all have similarities because they're made by humans. Our brains and functions all work pretty much the same way. That's why drugs have similar effects across the planet. When people have head injuries or serious illnesses, they sometimes say they saw a light of some kind. The only difference is that regional reports differ by religious affiliation. And those in the Middle East claim to see Allah, those in the UK, USA claim to see Jesus, etc. None of it is good evidence to suggest there's any God or afterlife. If there was any real convergence, there would not be so many religions and then so many sects in each religion itself. Well, I'll address that last point first, David. Religions, there's no law saying that any religious belief has to be based on a real thing. And look how many religions there are. I mean, if you include things like weird cults, that's the end of that particular segment. If you include things like weird cults, there are literally almost as many religions as there are people. Well, there's a huge number of religions. But there's so many. There are so many. So religions don't have to be based on any real spiritual tradition or even spiritual experience. Therefore, they can very easily be simply a product of the imagination, every bit as much as a novel or something that I write, some of my fiction. They could just as easily be that. So there's nothing that says if there was any real convergence, there wouldn't be so many religions. Now, what you described is very interesting. However, you say that these stories have similarities because they're made by humans, and our brains and its function work pretty much the same way. Well, I think you need a bit more explanation than that, David. You're going to have to explain where you make the point about drugs, head injuries, things like that. You have to make more of an explanation. Now, Susan Blackmore at least attempts that by saying that the tunnel of light people see in a near-death experience is caused by a physiological... She thinks she's identified the physiological function within the brain which generates that image under hypoxia, which would indeed be unique to all people. But this doesn't explain why people from as far away as Nigeria, Nevada and Nottingham see a man with a hat, for example, or an old woman with a ragged dress, or some creature with a cowl. Why does every human brain create the same images under certain states of certain states of consciousness to that extent of detail? That requires fantastical explanation, and you don't give any. In a sense, what you're doing is kind of a circular argument. You say, well, they have similarities because they're made by humans, our brains function the same way, therefore when people see the same thing, it's because of that function. That's a circular argument, and it's a non-explanation. So you may turn out to be right, David, but you don't go far enough. You don't actually go to explain why you're right. You kind of assume it. But that's actually quite an interesting comment you left there, so thank you very much. And David Smith says, time's up. I'll go on in the next segment. Okay, guys and gals, I'm back for part 2. So, where were we? Okay, David Smith has another comment here on reply to comment 62. It was a Charlie Veitch video, Ben. I can't post links. YouTube censors me enough as it is. David, I know, that's a pain in the bottom, that is, what they do. Obviously, they don't want the skeptic viewpoint being pushed. That dastardly NWO hates skepticism. Oh, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but the reason YouTube does censor links, but they don't. I think they are targeting woo-woos, not skeptics, in terms of like shadow banning and things like that. But the links thing is different. The links, I think it is silly that they sort of spam folder links, but a lot of spam does involve links. That's the problem. But you should be allowed to. I mean, I personally have set my spam filter at the lowest possible level, but nevertheless, it's still even then people can't post links on my channel, which is a shame. But anyway. But you can give me the title of the video if you want. I'll go and check it out. But you were pointing out how Charlie is quite vocal about addicts and looks down on them instead of trying to better understand how unfortunate events out of people's control can lead to those kinds of situations. I didn't point that out at all. I didn't say that. What I said was that Charlie Veitch used to be kind of like a truther. He was a 9/11 truther. He went on that pathetic BBC documentary. It's the same series that they asked me to be in, and I told him to get stuffed. And he came out of it like a changed man. He didn't believe 9/11 was the inside job. He carried on with his activism, but now his channel is primarily about he generates conflict and drama with people in the streets, and he tends to pick on the homeless drug addicts because they're quite volatile and they very easily rise to his bait. And why he does this? Well, he actually made a video saying, he actually was quite honest at one point. He says, "I've got unprocessed childhood trauma, and this is why I do what I do, and it's to relieve my own pain." And I know people who, that phrase, "hurt people hurt people." It's very true. It's very true. Slacks has done many videos about this himself. He's tried to explain some of his more negative behaviour, and I appreciate him doing that. I appreciate Charlie's. Well, both. I actually put a comment under there saying thanks for being honest. But no, I've never said anything about understanding how unfortunate events out of people's control can lead to situations. No, I never said that, even though that may be true. That may be the case. People sometimes just they do come down with mental illnesses through no fault of their own. They fall on hard times, things like that, and sometimes it's too much for people. I'm aware of that. And David Smith ends, "Very woke of you." Oh, well, I never even said that anyway, David. I don't know where you got that. Reply to comment 62. Oh my God, proselytizing Orthodox Pentecostal Angora rabbits is back. How long has it been since you commented on my channel, Rabbit? A year? Probably more than that. Welcome back, Rabbit. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Good to see you again, mate. Yeah. What's he got to say? Cobblers. Just one word. Cobblers. Charming. So Pentecostal Orthodox, proselytizing Orthodox Pentecostal Angora Rabbit comes back after how many years of not commenting on my channel and says just one word: cobblers. Oh, brilliant. What a dramatic anticlimactic return, Rabbit. It really is. Now TK's put a comment here on which I actually made a text comment, and I remember what it's about as well. TK, did you see the latest on the Alex Jones and the SH? Now, I can't say what SH is. SH is the name of a school in the United States, which has been in the news very much lately. Alex has gone back on his statement that it was a staged event, and that he's been sued for $4 million because of claiming the event was staged. Well, TK, he has to pay $4 million compensatory damages. He's also got to pay, I think, over $40 million punitive damages. That's what the court has ordered, I think. TK continues, as you think this was a staged event also, and most probably based on what people like Alex Jones said, are you going to back down and revisit this, or are your conclusions set in stone? I was sceptical this was a staged event, and I was right to be sceptical, whereas I'd like to see you dig yourself out of this one. Alright, TK, now I don't actually have to reply to you here, because I have replied to you already in my video called Alex Jones in Court, and no doubt you'll probably have left some comments on there which I'll be replying to later when we get to it. This was posted, interesting, TK posted this comment on Skeptics. Who are they? Why are they wrong? And why does it matter? This is one of the oldest versions of my Skeptic talk. I think it's the first one I did it. I did it in New Horizons St. Anne's years ago. And here we go, Alex Jones in Court. Right, so we've come to that very video now. Rick Clellan, keep checking I'm not on screen share by accident. Rick Clellan says, Alex Jones for King of the Galaxy. Steve Mumling says, King of the steaming pile of cash. Caroline McGreal says here on Alex Jones in Court, thank you for sharing, Ben. I see AJ as controlled by the hidden hand. Yeah, a lot of people do, Caroline. I don't think he is. I know that Israel Diego Rivera thinks that too. I don't think he is controlled by the hidden hand. I think there's some things he doesn't dare talk about. He's very political these days. He doesn't dare talk about certain things. Alex Jones in Court. Jonathan Carlos says, crap, I thought I'd be the first to comment. Do I at least get a hug? Oh, Jonathan, bless you. In regards to the mumblings said in that Angry Ben voice and other people's comments, vanishing, or are you, vanishing, or you allegedly deleting them? This could be down to the content of them and YouTube auto-deleting them. Mentioning AJ, who was banned from YouTube, as well as SH, which is a very contentious subject, would, in my mind, be removed very quickly by YouTube. You've left up some pretty nasty comments towards you in the past, as well as some that could very well challenge your beliefs and responded to them. I don't believe you yourself would have deleted them, mate. It's either YouTube or that bastard Bungle. Thanks, Jonathan. Much appreciated. I'm glad you realised that, because I do have quite a sort of open house policy when it comes to ideas. I don't think I've ever deleted a comment because of someone's opinion. I've only deleted them for rudeness. And I'm glad you realised that, mate. I think Steve actually does as well. No doubt, my shadow banning may come because I discussed the SH subject as well as many, many others, which, I mean, if you openly say the SH word, you don't just get shadow banned. I mean, they literally delete your video, which is why I actually had to edit that video I did about Alex, because I did mention the SH word openly a few times. I had to go back and delete it. Jonathan Carlos says on another comment here in Alex Jones in Court. In regards to AJ, sorry, I couldn't see my character limit, so I started a new comment. I didn't get into the whole SH thing too much, so can't possibly say whether the whole thing was staged or not. I would, however, not put it past the media and powers that be to dramatise such an event even further by selective editing and even roping in some actors. AJ raised some good points over the years and produced some very enlightening movies and reports, but I don't think he does it himself or truthers any favours with his red-faced rants. He doesn't do himself or truthers any favour with his red-faced rants. The guy needs to seriously rotate at times. Look at look at how he was on that Piers Morgan show, regardless of whether there was any truth to what he was saying during the interview, he killed it for himself by that rage he went into. This may have been, as you say, a kangaroo court. Perhaps the jury and the public in general may have been a bit more favourable to him had he remained calm and not exploded like he typically does. Sorry for the long old comments, Ben. Hope you're well, mate. I am, thanks, Jonathan. Much appreciated. No, I like the comments. Thank you very much for that comment. Very interesting. Alex, I think does. I think he is in the right here. I think he's won the argument, I would say. But unfortunately, his personality, his style, is counterproductive, in my view. And that is why, in a sense, he's the enemy have had such an incredibly easy time dealing with him and dispatching him in this way. He does, his rants, his somewhat slapdash attitude towards what he says about people, including the people who currently are engaged in this lawsuit. He should have been more careful in how he presented himself. The thing with Piers Morgan was awful and indeed, it was even worse with Andrew Neil. I mean, this is when he was on the BBC. I mean, maybe he just didn't realise how British TV works. It's not like American TV. So when Alex was on with Andrew Neil, he just went off on one of his. This was in 2013 during the Bilderberg Fringe. He went off on one of his incredibly shouty. He went off on a shouty. This Week in Politics with Andrew Neil. It's, you can't. British TV doesn't tolerate that sort of thing. Dagjab says here, I agree that Jones's big problem is the way how he gets carried away and goes on a rant, and it doesn't look on anyone else in the truth movement, where people who assume we are all like that. Yes, unfortunately, Dagjab, that's exactly the problem. Alex Jones in court, jungle camp. Alex Jones is a fraud, and his supporters are filth of this world. No one can support a guy who gets haunted parents of dead children. Who haunted parents of dead children. Right, a jungle camp, that's not really a very intellectual statement, right? First you say he's a fraud, you don't explain why. Then you say his supporters are the filth of the world. Well, some people obviously are very, very unpleasant. I mean, and very, I think they're very self-destructive and destructive to the movement. If what they're going to do is when Alex actually mentions certain people, and then people who listen to that and they go out and attack them, regardless of whether they're real or not, or who they are, if it's their real identity or not, you can't go harassing people in their own homes. You can't go sending them death threats and things like that, smashing up children's playgrounds, which are named after these alleged children. They have like toys that they have like rides named after these electric equipment named after them. What's that noise? Oh, my PC fan's a bit loud. If you're going to do that, you're going to make it easy. You set yourself up as basically a low-hanging fruit for the enemy to take you out. So yeah, that Alex, I don't think he's a fraud. I don't think most of his supporters, I think, are decent people. But his own methodology has backfired on him. Alex Jones in court. Andrew Munchkin. Oh, hello, Andrew Munchkin. Hi, Bolshevik Bed. Greetings, comrade. How are you? I want to call. I'm the opposite of a Bolshevik, actually. Kevin Michael Green says on Alex Jones in court, isn't it strange you never delete the comments that accuse you of deleting Steve's comments? Hang on. I never delete the comments that accuse you of deleting Steve's comments. Good point, sir. Good point, Kevin. Yes. How do you explain that, mumbling? Come on. You see, if I was really doing what Steve accuses me of, I wouldn't even be like that. I wouldn't even tolerate any discussion of it. I would just keep stum and just ending all discussion of it. That's a sign of guilt. When people do that, when they shut down all discussion of something, that's a sign of guilt, isn't it? It certainly is for politicians. Well, it is for social media pundits as well. And Kevin McGreal says, Kevin Michael Green, David Splendid Isolation. Hey, David says in reply, it's YouTube's filters doing it. Thank you, David. Yes, exactly. Alex Jones in court. Be the Truth says. I think I know who this guy is, actually. I recognise his Av. Why feed narc trolls, Ben? Wastes of energy, in my view. No need to explain a thing. They will take you around the block, wasting life force energy. Most of the false flags are just that. Does not mean some do not die, but mostly they're actors. SH is definitely in this realm. An actor repeats same bodies and actors and false. Look up Lighting Conspiracies Facts by long-term researcher and Xperia, Ula Damagard. Yeah. Yeah, I liked Damagard's great, and that's a good video. Yeah, that's a good video. He's very good, and you know, I mean, I don't. Maybe you're right. I mean, things when I was making this video, my friends said I shouldn't make this video. I should just shut. It's not even mention it. But I wanted to say something about Alex Jones, and I thought this is a good opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, and also fill a gap because there's a long gap. There was a long pause between my last video, and I happened to have my laptop with me, and I thought, why don't I just do it at this place? This place where I was staying in Wales, I might just do it there, and it was fun. I'm glad I did it, you know. But you know, I mean, I think I've got a thick enough skin for them not to take my life force energy, mate. I really do. When it comes to false flags, there's different types. I mean, there's the obviously 9/11, where something was done and the people died. People they said died. Other false flags, usually smaller in scale, are literally, they're not even real events. They are actually stagecraft. They're actually stagecrafted. They're actually just essentially movies. As Sophia Smallstorm says, you know, we have this idea that, you know, we have this bifurcation in the media between fact and fiction. We have the movies, we all know they're not real, and then we have the news, and we think that's real. Although, if you look into the actual production, production methods for both, they're pretty much the same. You know, they both have scripts, both have directors, producers, things like that. So yeah, but I do recommend Ula Damagard and Sophia Smallstorm. Sophia Smallstorm's work on this incident, this particular incident in question, is not par to none. Excellent stuff. Alex Jones in Court, Stephen Truthseeker. The best way to get rid of your mumbling problem is to ignore him. This includes his YouTube comments. Don't highlight anything he does or says. Just let him fade away. But you know, Stephen, the thing is, it's not a problem, really. It's not a problem. It's actually, I actually find he serves a purpose. It's not only quite entertaining dealing with him. It's education for the people watching, because I can actually explain why he's wrong about certain things, and this is a good way of educating my viewers. I'm not actually addressing him. I'm not trying to change Steve Mumbling's mind particularly. I gave up on that years ago. But it's just a way he's putting forward his hypothesis on his channel or in his comments here, and I am putting forward my response. And John Nolan says, but Steve Mumbling can be funny sometimes. Exactly. Social Dilemma says on the same video, I'm not Trevor, pride and dignity, brother Porter. Trevor is a hospital porter, yeah. I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, but I am a fan of freedom of speech and support the freedom to say what you want. I will debate what is said if I think it is wrong. Right. BZ, I've got 3 replies here. BZ Garson says here, Ben is a self-proclaimed, unfettered free speech absolutist. Doesn't stop him from deleting posts that supposedly may offend other people. Free speech my arse. Well, I don't delete posts that are actually making a point towards other people. If people want to, if you're in discussions, I don't. But I do delete posts which are just mindless attacks on other people. What Steve Mumbling said to Gary Robinson earlier, oh, you need to get a new wife, I would have deleted that if Gary hadn't himself produced such a great rejoinder. Now that's not nothing to do with free speech. This is the issue you have to separate, BZ. You have to separate the issue between expressing an opinion and just mindlessly attacking someone and being rude. Steve wasn't making a point. It was just a single sentence. You need to get another wife. He's just saying, well, obviously Gary's wife is no good because she's having these opinions. Therefore, Gary needs to get a new one. He doesn't explain what's wrong with her opinions. Why is she wrong? Do you see the difference here? Do you see the difference? It's the old. It's, you know, if you just because I support free speech does not mean I support the right to people just to say whatever they want. being rude to people, I get rid of them. Shouting fire in a crowded movie theatre is the classic one. Defamation of character, things like that. These things are against the law, and they should be. That's a different. What I believe in is the right to express opinions, not to attack people. Gary Robinson says here on Alex Jones in court, they made an example of AJ to let others in the truth movement know to keep their mouths shut. Correct. And Dag Jab says, exactly, most people I listen to in the truth movement are certain this trial was staged. Jones, well, if the defence barrister is giving crucial information to the prosecutor, how's that? Isn't that obvious? That's like Helen Duncan, isn't it? It's exactly like Helen Duncan. Jones controlled opposition playing his part. Well, I disagree with you there, though I do find it hard to accept that he's just acting. Richard D. Hall should get that Peter Hyatt guy to do a statement analysis of him. Oh no! Not Richard D. Hall's magic wand again. Abracadabra. Yes. Richard D. Hall, he says, forget every other form of scholarship in the world. I'll bring Peter Hyatt in, and I will solve the mystery once and for all. I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need to consult with other researchers. I have everything I need with Peter Hyatt. Da, 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 da. Oh, God, please. No more. No more. I don't understand why people find this methodology by Richard D. Hall so convincing. I don't understand why. I even get people repeating his crap about, well, I've worked it all out because Peter Hyatt says this. Yeah, who needs, like, if he was on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? Where they're trying to solve the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, and they build this supercomputer called Deep Thought. If Richard D. Hall was there, said, "Oh, it's all right. We don't need a supercomputer. I'll just bring Peter Hyatt will sort out the meaning of life, the universe, and everything." Yeah. Oh dear. Please, I wouldn't. Please don't fuel this strange fantasy that Richard's got himself into. Don't encourage him. Anyway, Dad carries on. I can't understand that so many think this was a real trial, including David Icke. Does David Icke think that? I've not seen Maybe he does. I've not seen his opinion on this. A lot of people will now know who Alex Jones, and the image of him won't be very good, and this will affect other more credible and trustworthy researchers. Well, you're right about that, Dag. Alex, in a sense, is now being used as a straw man. He's being used as a very, very public front man for all of us, to represent all of us, and he, unfortunately, he's willing to play that. I don't know if it's for any fault of his own. I don't think he's doing it deliberately, but he sets himself up very, very easily for that role, and he shouldn't. He should be a bit more modest, actually, to be honest. Ginskin Pivot says underneath, so these people can mass murder at will, but can only sting Jones for a defamation payout. Good thinking, Gary. What's this? Hang on. So these people, all right, can mass murder at will, but can only sting Jones for a defamation payout. Which people are you talking about? Who's mass murdering at will here? They are stinging. They've stung Jones, yeah, but he's basically, this is a massive lawsuit. There's millions of dollars being taken now from Alex. I don't understand your point, Jin. Gary Robinson says on Alex Jones, Ben, mate, it's becoming obvious that some people are making a hobby out of arguing with you. I doubt they even have a dog in the fight. Read the subjects you talk about in your videos and they protest about. They really just want a back and forth aggro and the attention it gives them. Be careful not to fuel the fire and choose your battles wisely, mate. I will try to, Gary, I'll bear that in mind. I'm willing to respond rationally to people who are rational with me. I'm not going to. If someone literally is just simply saying they think I'm talking bollocks, then I'll explain why I'm not. But if someone's just going to be abusive, I'll get rid of them. This is why, Gary, I was going to delete that comment that he made about your wife. It was only when you replied to him that I didn't. See, I won't tolerate that. It's only because you replied to it in such a brilliant way that I left that comment there. So, yeah, there is a line that people, there's a very distinct line which I will act on if people cross it. BZ sort of says underneath, BZ Garson, the Mumbles or anybody else has the right to take people to task. Yes, BZ, he does, and I have the people can decide not to have anything to do with him. I know people who've blocked him. I personally haven't, so long as he behaves himself, especially if they think they are bullshitting or defending or defending or defended in the past a bullshitter. Well, yeah, I mean, if they think I've defended or I am defending a bullshitter, then they can say so, and I will respond to them if they can prove their case. That's good. If they can't, then I will not. If they can't prove their case, I will say why they can't. Chucky Blackheart. Hello, Chucky Blackheart. That's an Alex-Jones in court. Ben, it's disappointing to see you watching and recommending podcasts to the Lotus Eaters. I've never seen such obviously AstroTurf controlled opposition. Just look at how dead inside, soulless those two hosts look. They look like they've been picked by Buckingham Palace. Just as it's disappointing to see people supporting Trump/Johnson. What has happened to this movement? I never thought I'd see this movement supporting politicians. What has happened to your instincts? Alright, Chucky, firstly, I do recommend podcasts of the Lotus Eaters. It's not just those two guests. It's not just those two hosts. There are like about a dozen different regular contributors, plus they have guest contributors occasionally. It's Sargon of Akkad's new show. I must say, I don't like it as much as his original channel, but I still do like watching it. And it's true that they don't believe certain things that I believe. They won't go into areas that I went into. When they were talking about Alex, they made it very, very clear to say, they said, well, it's very obvious that the SH word was actually something real. It was something real, and it's decided it's really now nobody now really believes that it was staged, because Alex-Jones has gone back on it and he's the only one who's really talking about it. So therefore we've now put that to bed. It's now in the past, and that's wrong. So obviously I don't agree with them there. I don't agree with a lot of what they're saying. Yet I think the hosts, you said they've been picked by Buckingham Palace. Some of them are better than others. I mean, I quite like John, the guy called John. He's left now, but I thought he was quite cool. I think some of them, I like Leo Kearns, the comedian, the Scottish guy. He used to be regular. I think he's now just like he comes in now and again. But of course, Sargon and Callum. Callum is the one that Kevin Logan and Christy Winters called Joey. He's stuck with them. He's stuck with them the whole time, and I think he's very good. Obviously, I think he's quite young. I don't know how old he is precisely. He looks quite young, but he's very wise for his tender years. Firstly, right, you can go on. It's disappointing to see people supporting Trump and Johnson. Right, well, I don't support Johnson anymore, as you know. But I do support President Trump, and I've explained why. Now, if you think if that disappoints you, please explain to me where I've gone wrong. And you said, I never thought I'd see this movement supporting politicians. What's happened to your instincts? What's happened to this movement? Well, Chucky, what's wrong with supporting politicians? If those politicians are doing good, are good people, and they're in a position where they can do good, what's wrong with that? And unless you're one of these people who believes that it's not possible for a politician to be any good and be in that position, because then once you do that, you get into the unfalsifiable, the omnipotent and all-powerful bad guys who can never be beaten, and everything that seems to go against them is not really going against them. You see, then you get into a completely unfalsifiable hypothesis, which is the New World Order is a terrible thing, but it can never be seen to end, because everything that happens to makes it look like it's ending. It's not really ending, you see. It's just a deeper, more crafty level of the conspiracy. By that logic, Chucky, in 200 years' time, in the post-Illuminati world, there'll be people poking their heads around corners, going, "My goodness, they're so crafty." The Illuminati have actually pretended to die for 200 years and leave the entire world in the post-Illuminati era. My goodness me. How much craftier can they get? Do you see what I mean, Chucky? Do you see what I mean? The bad guys are not invincible. They're not all powerful. They make mistakes, and occasionally, such as in the second half of 2016, they completely lose control of everything. Chucky puts a reply to his own comment here. Oh, pardon me. everyone saying anything interesting has long since been banned from YouTube. And even the majority of those shilling on the homepage of BitChute or astroturfed lightweight milquetoast control opposition. Oh my goodness me. What a sweeping generalisation. Firstly, you're partly right about people being banned from YouTube. I mean, there's... it's not universal. There are lots of people still on YouTube who have interesting things to say, but a lot of the people I'm quite fond of, a lot of the people I'm quite interested in, have indeed been banned. Yeah. But as for the rest of it, you mentioned people shilled on BitChute and things like that, AstroTurf, lightweight. Can you give examples and explain why? Because I can't respond to that. It's just a single sentence making an assertion without any evidence. Marky Boy says underneath, the only podcast to announce the CDC directional change on it's another disease I probably can't say. So is that Lotus Eaters, Marky? Did Lotus Eaters say that they were announcing the CDC directional change on the virus? Is that it? Right, we now have a thread on Alex Jones in court. Chucky Blackheart says, ask Steve Mumbling if he's a Jew and watch him creep away in terror. I've been found out, quote unquote. Steve, are you a Jew? Honestly, I don't really care what the answer is because I think it's irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. But I've asked you anyway. You can reply any way you like. I don't care. I did a video called Jews, which was essentially debunking this obsession that distant circles have with Jews. There's some people, it's Jews this and Jews that, blah blah, Jew. I made a video called Jews, which essentially was an examination and eventually discrediting that whole idea. And guess what? It was banned from YouTube for hate speech. Of course, it is available on all tech platforms, so you can find it there. But there you go. BZ Garson says underneath, what does that mean? Yeah, good question. BZ, for once, I actually agree with you. Woody Black says, oy vey. BZ Garson says to Woody Black, another keyboard warrior. Steve said, sorry to disappoint you, but no, I'm not Jewish. And if I were, it would make no difference what I post. Why would it? Well, Steve, that's one of the few times I actually say something. You've actually said something I completely agree with. Chucky Blackheart says, yeah, I don't believe you. Steve Mumbling says to Chucky Blackheart, I've just looked at my givashometer. Give a shitometer. I've just looked at my give a shitometer. It reads 0. I'm actually going to give Steve a love heart for that. You don't often get love hearts from me, Steve. David says to Steve Mumbling, come on, Stephen, admit it. We're all Jews, and that's why we don't share in these delusions. What other possible reason could there be? Steve Mumbling says, you're right. This is a job for the flying rabbi. Up, and oy vey. David Smith says, we all know how this works. We start with the conclusion, then make whatever we can fit the narrative. It's the only way to get true alternative facts, Steve. How do you think AJ gets the truth-so option? Logic? Reason? Rationality? Evidence? Facts? Poof. Those are for sheep, mates. It's David, typical Dave Smith sarcasm there, but that was actually quite a funny thread, so I don't mind him using it. Alex Jones, Jim Dodd says it was all done to ban the guns. Mostly, yes, it was. Yes, there were actually other reasons behind it. Sophia Smallstone goes into more detail about some of the more strategic elements to it, but yeah, gun control, a big thing in the United States. It was definitely that. Alex again. This is Laura Meltz 77 brackets LSK. Welcome, Laura, a new one here. Ben, I'd love to talk to you about the whole SS thing. I have personal connection, and which I find all this really interesting. Do you mean SH? Laura, by all means, email me, bennyj74@gmx.co.uk. You can actually find my email. Sorry, I won't spell it out for you. If you go to the HPANWO Radio, HPANWO TV, and HPANWO Voice blogs, you'll see a link to my email. But by all means, if you have a personal connection, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Funnily enough, when the Manchester Arena bombing happened, someone kept posting comments in chat in the comments section saying, "Look, I've got a personal connection to some people involved in this. It's not what Richard D. Hall is saying." I says, "Well, contact Richard, tell him about it." "Oh no, I'm not going to do that," they said. But I'm curious to see if you do, if you really do. Right, Jungle Surfer. PJ, welcome. PJ, welcome. Jungle Surfer. It's the Jungle Surfer is back. Beatrice, what's he up to? I have to give him his voice is very like my fake Steve Mumbling voice, actually. Alex Jones is a trans man actor in the game. They play a complex strategy, good cop and bad cop ideas everywhere. The SH is a hex, just like NASA, JFK, and the rest of television. Right. Well, Jungle, I can't really go into all that. I think you're right, partly right, but you don't really go into specific. NASA, JFK, yes, I quite agree. But Alex Jones, I think Alex Jones. I know you have a very, very long list of people you don't trust in this world, and I think my name was on that list for a while. However, I think you're being a bit, you're being a bit excessive and extreme, I think, in your distrust. You're kind of an Australian Richard D. Hall, basically. Alex Jones in court. Alliance of Calgon says, whenever you discuss mumbling, I fast forward. Why give him airtime? 12 minutes of farting noises would be more enjoyable. All right, Alliance. I try to explain why I do. But I think a lot of people said I shouldn't have replied to him in a video. But I thought, let's just get this over with. Lisa Cry Freedom. Hey Lisa, how you doing? Well, in my own opinion is that I've not listened to Mr. Alex Meatball Jones for a long time. He does look like a meatball, doesn't he? We all know how much manipulated BS there is out there, and paid up rich NWO puppets pretending to look to be on our side. No idea what Mr. Jones is, but I don't like the guy. Well, Lisa, I personally think he's not a manipulated puppet, but your personal opinion of him is different. So if you don't like someone, that's fair enough. I don't like that a guy saw him deliberately trying to mesmerize a crowd at a Trump rally into violence. He came across almost insane. What better way for the dark side to discredit the true truthers by getting Mr. Jones up in court? And on the BBC News, we know the enemy we fight and need to stop dividing ourselves, which is and has been the game for a very long time. # just saying. Well, the thing about Alex is, his behaviour, as the behaviour you talk about here, is indeed counterproductive. It really is, and I think he has an ego on his head. He really does. He is like a little bit insular, and he doesn't really listen or see what's going on around him, and as a result, he does these things which backfire so badly. And it's not the current lawsuit is not the first time that's happened. I don't believe it's because he's controlled opposition. I think he's just foolish, and has become more so actually over the years. And he's done a lot of damage through not through malice, but through stupidity. But thanks for the comment, Lisa, much appreciated. We got a thread now, Lisa. Another way of looking at all this Alex Jones stuff is that it's massively killing mainstream. It's massively hitting mainstream TV. And at least bringing attention to the thoughts most watching have probably never had. The world looks at the world in a mysterious way. It is bringing attention, though, Lisa. Although I think it's bringing the wrong kind, and I think it's designed to do that. It's actually, and it's a good sign. What it is a good sign is of the idea people questioning the whole SH thing. There's so many of them now. That this essentially is a damage control exercise. They're using Alex for a massive attempt to basically pour water on the fire, and that I think is a good sign. Unfortunately, it's true that a few people who see this propaganda will look at it and it will make them think, hang on, maybe I should. Now I know about this, maybe I should look at the other side of the story. Unfortunately, such a tiny minority do that. That it actually, it doesn't really, it's an aggregate loss on our side, and indeed the people behind the propaganda know this. They know very well that they're actually going to red pill a few people by what they're doing, but they know they're going to blue pill so many more it doesn't matter. The solution, what really red pills people, is what you and I are doing. That's what red pills people. And Snarnox says here underneath, the same thing happened to Joe Rogan last year, and his views vastly increased. Oh well, that's an exception. It is a very different circumstance, Snarnock. It is very different circumstances. But with Joe Rogan, it did. The problem is that once Joe Rogan had signed this exclusivity contract with Spotify, he was hobbled. That's the problem. He was hobbled. Although, in fact, a lot of his old bootleg shows, the one he did with people who now sort of like verboten on Spotify, like Sargon of Akkad, and Stefan Molyneux and people like that, they're now more popular than some of his Spotify shows. He should have just stuck with doing what he does. He should have stuck. BZ Garson says here, have you got any sources, facts and figures to back up your assertion? I think it's quote, that it's massively hitting the mainstream TV, or is that something you just believe? Lisa replies to BZ. You either know or you don't. Just know you or don't. No one else cares. Another good reply there, Lisa. To another good reply to people. Yeah. BZ says to Lisa, on a rational adult level, your reply does not make a lot of sense. A truther conspiratorial level is nothing less than I expected. Pure rubbish. Not at all. I mean, not at all. I think BZ that Lisa is not afraid to use her intuition, and I think intuition is underrated. Even Albert Einstein used to say, I know if one of my theories is right because I can feel it. My fingers tingle. I can feel it. The job of the scientist, as far as he was concerned, is simply to demonstrate through his equations what he already knew to be true. You see. And Lisa says to BZ, I respect your opinion. Yeah. Well done, Lisa. Well done. What am I doing for time? Yeah, the alarm will go off when it's not a problem. The alarm will go off automatically when that's all right. I'm just converting the files as I go along as well. I'm just doing a quick double check here. Hopefully this particular it'll be. Oh no, it is. Oh god. No, sorry. I'll sort out the technical stuff later, but I've just buggered up. I've just buggered something up. Don't worry, guys. I will sort it out later. Jack Burns says here on Alex Jones in court. I've been reflecting on a bit on the AJ case. First, I don't know why he went down the route of claiming SH was a hoax or fake with actors. Plenty of other angles to challenge it from, over the prescription of medication to children, the breakdown of society, etc. Bringing the parents into it was opening him up to being sued like this. Also, though, all through time he talked about SH on his show all through the time he talked about SH on his show was when he had a YouTube channel, so YouTube must have thought it wasn't that bad. Did the parents even make a complaint to YouTube, I wonder? Well, the thing is, Jack Burns, in those days YouTube was very different to what it is now. Very different indeed. This was before YouTube began clamping down on certain opinions. The reason he thought he went down the route of claiming that SH was hoax was because of the evidence, because there's evidence that it was. That's the thing. That's the point. The issue of medication to children, the fact that there are real teenagers, they're mostly boys in their sort of mid-teens, who are very, 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 very mentally damaged by education, by poor parenting, breakup of the family, and indeed medication. Yes, and some of them will actually literally do things like that. In fact, there are cases going back to the 60s where parents, children, teenage boys do act in that way, violently with weapons. It does happen, yes. In this particular case, the evidence says otherwise. That's the thing. But he brought the people into it who claim to be the parents, and that is essentially lowering the drawbridge and bearing your heart. It is, and that was unwise. The way he handled it was pretty slapdash, and it was irresponsible, and that's why this is happening. Doesn't mean he's wrong. Doesn't mean Alex is wrong. and that the people suing him are right. It just means that he left himself open to being set up in that way. Right, Alex. Alex Jones in court. Hugo, I'm not able to watch this. It will not play. Just a thing going round and round and loading thingy. Can I comment? Yeah. Oh, it was hourglassing. There could be several reasons for that. Possibly a problem with YouTube. Possibly a problem with your internet connection. Do remember it is on other platforms as well. BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble. So you can try it there if it doesn't work on YouTube. Hugo says, yes, I can comment, but I still have to have it waiting to load. Sorry, Ben, for some reason this won't load on my PC. Right. Woody Black says try Chrome. There's lots of alternative things you can do to get it to work. I mean, if a lot of people complain, I will re-upload it. Hugo, Ben, read my earlier comments. It seems to be Firefox is having difficulty loading your page. I'm now watching it on the Avast browser. Right, it may not work on that particular browser very well. I don't know. Hugo, I don't know why that is. Unfortunately, I can't control that, and I don't know why it is. Diego Vera says on Alex Jones, the trial looks like a psyop. Questions have to be asked about Alex Jones and David Icke, whether they are controlled opposition. You've done a video about that, Diego Vera, and you know I don't agree with you. I think that's actually a bit of to be honest, that's quite lazy, Diego Rivera. Let's face it, just saying, well, someone says something like something at certain times. Something happens to somebody, they make a mistake and they get into hot water. It's very simple to say, well, the controlled opposition must be the answer. It's not always the answer. It's not. And I've tried to explain why I think that is. And I hope you'll take my comments on board. Clive Albert, someone else I haven't seen for ages. On Alex Jones, welcome back, Clive. Hope you're doing all right. It's years since I've heard from you. As he says, as I comprehend it, they are not called attorneys for nothing. They turn you over. That's what they do. A man, all rights reserved. A man, all rights reserved. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. This guy is essentially it's like a cabal conspiring within the legal system to get a certain result. They did exactly the same with Helen Duncan. They had the defence barrister was Loseby. He was actually not inside the cabal, but they had Dodson, the judge. They had Maud, the prosecutor, and they had there was Elam as well. They were all part of MI5, and Dodson was was active in Royal Navy Charities, and it was all managed by Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming was not only he wrote about a very famous fictional spy, of course, James Bond, but he was head of naval intelligence and one of the most experienced intelligence officers in the country. He managed the whole thing. It was a show trial, and they're doing the same. I think with Alex Jones, it's the same thing. Snarnock, how you doing, Snarnock? Alex Jones, I usually obfuscate certain words, and I've had comments deleted by YouTube when I forget to do this. Right, that could be you're using the wrong words. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Okay, new video. Sky watching the triangle. Helen Tucker says, "Nice one, Ben. I love your trips." And I actually, oh God, what have I done there? For bloody F's sake, I'm gonna scroll down again. I just did the usual sort of right-click thing wrong. Oh, there we go. Down we go. Down we go. It gives you a clue about how long this is going to be. Anyway, this new video, yes, Helen Tucker says, "Nice one, Ben. I love your trips." And I actually put a text comment saying, "Thanks, Helen. Enjoy." Sky watching the triangle. Rod says, "Hi, Ben. I tried to include in a comment to you the YouTube link of a video titled 7/24/22 multiple ships powering up. I wanted your opinion on it and its legitimacy. Kindest regards, Rod." All right, okay. I will check that. I'll just cut and paste the link. I'll have to remember afterwards to go back and get the. Yeah, well, is it a YouTube, right? Well, this is another solution. If you can't post links, or just post the comments title. Shut up, Clive. Okay, so I'll just do a search for this on YouTube. Let's have multiple ships powering up. Here we go. All right, yeah. Oh, it's a Skywatch. Oh, hang on. Ads. I hope there's not too many ads on this, mate. Here's another ad. Luckily, they're short ones. Okay. All right. Oh, let me. Okay, I'll share screen. Let's have a look.
Vortex of orbs around us right now.
Oh, yeah.
This is
three.
Skywatch.
Another
Oh,
one
look.
came up and greeted him.
It changed direction. Yeah, that's not a satellite.
Yeah, two.
Yeah, I got him. There's three. Another one went right through him.
Oh, there's one behind the two.
Is there?
There's two. Four.
Jeez.
One.
No, there's
no.
four in front. I got the two in front.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. There's a third one. Hold on.
This is 3 minutes long.
Like, ooh, here. Powering up right here.
Okay, I got fleet.
What?
Look at all those.
Holy cow.
And they're all,
Wicked.
and they're going, look, they're going down, they're going up.
Oh my God. Look.
This
there's
one's
double
going up.
Side by side.
There's two side by side.
All right.
Oh my God.
All right. So I think I've seen enough of that, but I won't watch the whole thing here. But thanks very much for that. Much appreciated, Rod. I'll just get back the. I better get back the timestamp. That looks interesting. There's not only multiple lights, but they appear to be changing direction and things like that, which satellites do not do. So that's a very interesting video. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, as you know, if you watch my video, that we never ever detected anything like that. Gary Robinson says, watching in bed with a fever. Cheers, mate. Oh, Gary. Sorry you're not well, mate. I hope you feel better soon. That was 10 days ago, so I assume you're better now. Stephen said, I know all about camping. I was homeless for 3 years. Maybe those shooting stars and meteors were not shooting stars and meteors. Maybe not, Stephen, but if they look like them, unfortunately, it's quite likely they are. Yeah. Same video, Stephen says again. Richard D. Hall lives in those parts. So did you do a talk for Swansea UFO? All right. I never mentioned that, did I? Yeah, Richard lives in South Wales. He lives. I think it's somewhere in the sort of southeast area. I'm not sure which town he lives at. No, I didn't in the end. I didn't. I did say, look, excuse me. I said in the end, I went up to them and said, look, I can do a bit of a talk for you if you want. And they said, no, it's all right. It's not necessary. Sky watching the triangle. David, splendid isolation. You do indeed look like him, Ben. All right, that's Johan Emlyn. He's my great granddad. I suppose he does a bit. A lot of people have said that. Yeah. Tor Engen says on Sky watching the triangle. Many forget that the transatlantic slave trade source was from Muslims and Africans. Even African females run the slave trade and also did human sacrifices. That's right, Tor. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole cultural Marxism thing, which I've talked about before, about how history essentially is being given a false image of history. In my videos, for example, a video I think you might like is White People, a reply to Christy Winters, because I'm quite proud of that video. Well, I talk about that. I talk about the slave trade, how it was ended, things like that. Sky watching the triangle. Hugh Jarsouls says, yes, it's ironic that they'll fly only the Ukrainian flag but ignore other conflicts around the world. What's so special about Ukraine compared to others? Yes, the reason is, Hugh, is that, as you know, it's important for geopolitical purposes for Russia to be essentially surrounded by and basically controlled by globalist forces. That's why they're doing it. He continues, nice. Have you read the book The Welsh Triangle and The Uninvited? Yes, I've read both, and they're both really good. They're both about the 1977 flap, and they're quite something, yeah. I've seen the triangle, so-called TR3B up close in 2007. Was insane. I think you told me about that in another comment, Hugh. Yeah. That's very interesting, mate. Very interesting indeed. Thanks. Donna Wellham said on Sky watching, did you see anything, Ben? Donna, no. If you watch the video, you'll know that I didn't, unfortunately, see anything. I saw a lot of nice things. I mean, I had a great time. I mean, when you're out in the countryside, there's no street lights around with you. Just the normal stuff in the sky is really great to see. It's really great to watch, and it's really beautiful. And I think it's worth going out there just for that reason alone. It's worth doing sky watches just for that, you know. Donna says, yes, I can see a bit of a resemblance to Ben in that photo. Yeah, that's my great-granddad. Yeah, I suppose he does look a bit like me, yeah. Donna also says, yes, on the same video. Some places still take cash, but it all depends where you are. Donna, I've noticed some geographical locations are worse than others. Now, central London seems to be a particularly bad place for that. In fact, there's a street in Chelsea where it's literally cash, absolutely 100% cashless, everything. Cyril Disobedience, that's a good name, says on Sky Watching the Triangle, are they worried about giving people milk in case they throw it on the floor as part of a vegan protest? Oh, that was the opening scene, yeah. Maybe, who knows what goes on at service stations, Cyril, yeah. We've got Alex Jones again, Tor Engen. Moderna are going to declare bankruptcy to prevent being sued. Can it be so different if you are... Can it be it is different if you are socialist? Well, if you're a socialist, everything's different because you're globalist. But yeah, Moderna and lots of other companies, that's a good thing, you see. There's like Vicky Spitz lawsuit. I think the whole situation over the V word legally is going to change. I heard about this thing with Moderna. It's in the news. I'm interested to see how that goes. Sky Watching the Triangle. Marley Pumpkin. Oh, God. More UFO nonsense. How boring. Right, Marley. Yes, and you watched all of it, didn't you? You watched all of it. You know, it's so... Like I said to someone else, you know... You can be like the two old guys in the private box at the Muppet Show if you want, or you can go away and watch another video. I'm not stopping you. No one's forcing you to sit here and be bored for an hour. But you choose to. Richard Best says on Sky Watching the Triangle, what camera are you using, Ben? Impressive zoom. It's a Sony camcorder from about... it's actually about 6 or 7 years old now. I'm actually going to replace it because, as you know, from a more recent production of mine, it's cocked up rather badly, so I'm going to replace it. It's actually lasted quite a long time, and I'm quite proud. I'm quite proud of it and quite pleased with it. But it's come to the end of its life, I think. BZ said 480p is definitely not impressive. Well, BZ, it's certainly not. I think it's actually not an idea. It's actually not a proper sky watching camera. The things that Win Keats uses, they're proper sky watching cameras, but they cost thousands. And I think you've got to be a really dedicated sky watcher to put that investment into what you do, and I'm not. It's just something I really do for fun. Richard says to BZ, why? I'm not expecting him to be using professional gear. He's not filming the Olympics, just saying the zoom is good on whatever he's using. BZ says to Richard, 1080p, the de facto YouTube standard video resolution, is a feature on cheapo cameras and usually comes as standard. It most certainly is not an exclusive feature of professional gear. I see you shot your Dungeness fishing video in 1080p. Were you taking a break from filming the Olympics? Alright, this is Richard Best's video, which BZ has watched. I've not watched it. Thing is, BZ, it's standard feature on maybe cameras that are coming out today. My particular camcorder, the one I filmed this on, is like, it's from about 6 or 7 years ago. When was it I bought it? I'll tell you when I bought it. It was just before I went off to Devon. So I think it was in 2015 or so, my first Devon trip. And yeah, so it's probably because that was standard at the time. It's now improved as technology improves. Richard Best says, okay, but who actually cares? BZ. Wildebeest and barnyard animals. Yeah, BZ Garson says on Sky Watching the Triangle, Sky Watching, up the nostrils. Oh, are you making a comment about my nose? Oh, honestly, BZ, that's a bit childish, isn't it? Alex Jones, Steve mumbling. People sue people with money, not penniless, self-employed dog walkers. What would they get when they won? A half-eaten sandwich, an inflatable alien, and some threadbare underpants. Have you been staring at my underpants, Steve? I'm worried. If you are focusing on my underpants, I'm worried. I really am. As for the half-eaten sandwich, where's that? I don't leave half-eaten sandwiches in my room. I eat them, otherwise they go stale. I sometimes wrap them up and put them in the fridge, but no. So I don't know what you're talking about. David Smith says here, whilst true there are cases where music companies have sued poor people for file sharing, it's an attempt at deterrence, but this isn't the case with AJ. He's done real harm and damage to the lives of others. The time to believe something is when there is good evidence to support it. I watched all the crazy conspiracy videos about SH, and no one offered anything more than conjecture and conspiracy claims. David, obviously you know I don't agree with you on that, and I've explained why. As for... yeah, I suppose this is a different situation from file sharing, yeah. Going back to the old Napster era, which seems to have been sorted out now, that was very interesting that they did that. It was actually the Skeptics who actually called them out on it and said, look, this is just market adjustment. And indeed it was. Anyway, David carries on. At one point, Ben mentioned someone who cycled there every day and the school didn't exist. To right after saying it was closed. Something that doesn't exist isn't closed. These types of claims are believed over solid evidence because, once again, some people need the conspiracies to be real. They feed it into the wider worldview. Well, that was actually... right, that was basically Sophia Smallstorm who explained how she's actually native to that area, you see. She was born and grew up there. She knows the local people and she knows the local area. She explained how she said, look, basically, I didn't... those families... There's no families with that name in that area. And closed and doesn't exist... Nah, I mean, you know, what I'm talking about is basically... Alright, what I'm talking about is basically there is a building that has those words on there now, but there's nothing going on. There was... Basically, what she's saying is that building didn't exist at a certain point. Then it was put there and there was no school in it. It was not used for a school. That's what she's saying. And she's saying there's never been a school in that area. That's the actual... there were schools, but not that particular one. She's also saying that, like, basically the people she knows from that area, so she basically said the families, the family names are not local names, things like that. So if I've made a mistake in terms of terminology, I've made a mistake, but honestly, I'm not confusing over what was actually going on. That's the end of that particular... That's the end of hour number 2. So I'll just finish that particular segment there. Okay, Steve Mumbling. I'll just quickly do Steve Mumbling's. Hang on. How long is David's reply? I'll just quickly do this because it'll be within the area. The way they try. This is David saying here. The way they try to suggest skepticism is a negative trait reminds me of the way devout Christians are scared of becoming atheists. Skeptic becomes a dirty atheist word. Be careful not to... Alright, I'm going to actually tackle this in the second hour because that's the point I want to go into in great detail. So that's the end of another hour, guys. Okay, we're on to hour number 3, and I'm going to put 2 timestamps on this particular thread because didn't want to just finish this thread because I want to make a big point about this. I suggest the way they try to suggest skepticism is a negative trait reminds me of the way devout Christians... This is David Smith again. Are scared of becoming atheist. Alright, this sentence is very interesting. I'll deal with this one sentence. I'm a critic of the skeptic movement, and I've made a presentation which you've seen. The most recent one was at the Swansea UFO Network, where I have an entire presentation about why I think that. Now, are you saying that I think your point is that I am suggesting my criticism of skepticism, the skeptic movement, is exactly the same as Christians reacting against atheism because they're scared basically of becoming an atheist. So the Christian who reacts angrily against atheists is a Christian who is not very secure in their beliefs. They actually, deep down, they're losing their faith, and even though they won't admit it, they're losing their faith, and they're frightened of that. And they're frightened if they admit to themselves that there are problems with their faith. If they ever admit that, they'll leave themselves vulnerable, and then maybe they'll have to become atheists, as some religious people do. And that you're suggesting I'm the same as that, because I am not. I'm not. If I was like that, I would be far more hostile to skeptics and the skeptic movement than I was. I think that my analysis within my presentation is actually quite calm, it's quite rational, and in some ways it's even affectionate. I have skeptic friends, as the saying goes. Now, I can't guarantee that I won't become a skeptic one day, but you see, I think people on the woo-woo side do become skeptics. Indeed, both sides make converts from the other. I mean, Michael Shermer is a good example. I think he's on that. He's in that process right now. But I'm one of the least likely to become a convert because, ironically, it's the ones who are most likely to convert to skepticism on the woo-woo side are those who are the most zealous true believers and are least tolerant of the other opinion, because when their own particular worldview lets them down, they feel betrayed, and they very often react against it by joining the other side. I, on the other hand, have a sympathetic view towards the other side. I've analysed it. I know their arguments. I know their positions. This is why I'm very unlikely to be a convert. It's because of my It's actually because of my openness, my ability to entertain ideas without accepting them, that makes me, and then my actual knowledge and acceptance of the skeptic movement, which makes me the least likely to become a convert. It's like, it was actually this woman, I can't remember, one of the skeptic women, I don't think it was Rebecca Watson, I can't remember which it was, but she did a very interesting talk, because she'd got into the Horseman and Dawkins when she was like a teenager, and she was now an atheo-skeptico-materialist, speaking at skeptic conferences. And she actually said, that Dawkins, Hitchens, Dennett, and Harris gave her a false view of Christianity and religion. They said that those guys, the four horsemen, they actually misrepresent religious belief. And she actually started reading C.S. Lewis, and she thought, my goodness, this is far more complicated than I thought it was. This whole the actual anti-religious side, Dawkins, etc. They portray their opponents as a caricature. And she actually believed that it was real. She started reading C.S. Lewis, talking to people who were like more sophisticated on the religious side, and it actually made her think again. Now, I must point out, she's still a skeptic. She's still an atheist. She did not convert yet. Well, not yet, anyway. But it gave her an understanding that the issue is so much more complicated than she thought it was. Now, on the other hand, I know people on the woo-woo side who misrepresent skeptics. Who misrepresent them totally, who say that sometimes they say, oh, they're all shills, or they're all closed-minded bigots. They say things like that. I don't, you see, I don't. People like Chris French I get on with. He invited me to speak at his conference, and I was only we've always got on very well, me and Frenchie. Anyway, David carries on. Skeptic becomes the dirty atheist word. Be careful not to think critically too much, or you might end up as a baby-eating skeptic. Well, as I've just explained, David, that if you're addressing me with that, you're completely misrepresenting me. Totally. You are marginalizing me. Do you understand? That's what you're doing. And Steve Mumbling says to David Smith, yes, complete and utter rubbish. No one in their right mind would think SH was staged. That's the key. No one in their right mind. Ben and Tony Topping should have adjacent rubber rooms at the Chuckle Farm. There's not even anything to laugh at on the channel anymore. It's had it. Oh well, suit yourself. As the late great Frankie Howard used to say, Steve, please yourselves. But you see, obviously, it's not complete and utter rubbish. There's a reason why I talk about SH being staged. And the rest of it's just rhetoric, with me and Tony having adjacent rooms. Yeah, that's very amusing, Steve, but it's just rhetoric. David Smith says to Steve, it doesn't make them delusional about everything, just certain beliefs. It's compartmentalization. To carry on the atheist analogy, I'd say a skeptic has to be open to having their minds changed, like most atheists, whereas a believer in conspiracies or gods is quite closed-minded, as they can invent all kinds of nonsense to defend their beliefs. It's not logical. It's not based on good evidence or rationale. It just appeals to some people. Well, David, you must realise that cuts both ways. I give the example of Steve in my talk at SUFON, and I think you've watched it, because if not, you need to. I give the example of Steve Novella, and the guy he talks about, the man who said I would indoctrinate her into non-belief, his daughter who became a Buddhist. He brought her up to do that, to become rational, logical, and give good evidence, and she then became a Buddhist, and he said if I would bring her up differently, and I would indoctrinate her into non-belief. Now that in itself is a negation of this whole persona that skeptics have. It's a negation of the very description you give. And I explain why in my talk. What's weird, it just goes over their heads. They don't even see it. So there are true believers who are intolerant of the opposite opinion on both sides, David. On both sides. Yes, it's important to be open to having your mind changed, to be able to have conditions put upon your beliefs that says, okay, if this is so and so, then I'll change my mind. That's fair enough, but skeptics are equally guilty as woo-woos for not doing so, and for essentially ring-fencing their ideas through fallacy. Then David Smith says, when Ben starts talking about skeptics being scared of the truth, it always makes me chuckle. That's exactly not what skepticism is. If anyone is like that, by definition, they can't be skeptical. It's like saying someone is vegan because they're scared of milk. That's actually true, David, but the thing is, my point was, and I go into more detail in my skeptic talk, the skeptic movement itself has a false opinion of itself. Do you see what I mean? And like I say, they have to, sometimes they offline rationality to preserve their opinions. Interesting comments, guys. Thanks very much. And now we have Gardening with Nick. Gardening with Nick, how are you? This is Sky watching the Triangle here with Gardening with Nick. And he's a guy who just started commenting recently. Hi, Ben. Great video as always. Thanks, mate. Thanks, Gardening with Nick. I do have a question. You keep on mentioning chemtrails in this video. However, what evidence that proves those trails in the sky are chemtrails? I asked because I believed in chemtrails for many a year and realized the chemtrail community couldn't provide any scientific evidence to back up their claims. So I purchased a load of old books about weather and cloud formations dating back to the 1950s. The earliest book I had is from 1955 and it shows the same trails in the skies we see today. I realised that those trails are most likely contrails, not chemtrails. It shows clearly in these books that contrails do spread out due to the humidity, moisture and altitudes of the aircraft. This is why we see trails one day and not the next, as it's to do with the right conditions in the stratosphere. I've seen plenty of videos online of one supposedly chemtrail, but no one seems to ask the question. What's one chemtrail going to do? Block out the sun? So many theories, not enough evidence to suggest that spraying is taking place on a daily basis, in my opinion. Plus, these trails disappear within an hour or so. I do somewhat believe in chemtrails, but no one knows when, where it's going to take place. And can not be the judge, because there is one trail in the sky. I'm 50-50 on this conspiracy. However, the truth movement seems to have all the answers. Sorry for a long message, and I'm not here to create tension. I'd appreciate it if the truth movement wouldn't be so rude and vile to me, just for asking questions that differs from their opinion. Be good to have your thoughts on the matter. Keep up the great videos. Nick, there's no way I'm going to be rude or vile to you because you disagree with anything I say. I appreciate you giving me your opinion on this, and you're asking the questions you do. It's worthwhile. It's worthwhile asking these questions. The answer is I don't have the information to hand, but I'm familiar with the arguments you've given. I'm well aware that there are persistent contrails, but the persistent contrails don't behave like the chemtrails. They might last for an hour. They do not last for 4 hours. They do not. The presence of literally some hot air and a few grams of soot in the stratosphere would not create the effects that we see unless there was more going on. And I don't have all the information in hand, but there's Alana Freeland's book. There's also the fact that the possibility of aerosol spraying by aircraft does date back a long way. It does. I know you see the photographs you saw from 1955. I'd have to ask. They're photographs. Do you have a photograph of the same patch of sky taken 4 hours later? Would the trail still be there? I mean, there are contrails from piston planes from World War II. There's photographs taken in World War II of contrails left behind by bombers, just simply hot air from the engines and the exhaust from the engine, which is not as efficient as a jet engine at high speed. So it leaves behind sometimes even thicker trails, but the trails dissipate. The same way that when you breathe out on a cold day, you do create a cloud of moisture which condenses in the cold air. Yet when it condenses, it disperses because there's only so much moisture in that particular volume of air, so it thins as it disperses to the point where you can't even see it anymore. It blends with the natural humidity. I can't really go into detail, say, well, this video would, this is a comments reply video, but there are answers to your questions. And BZ Ganser says underneath, I think chemtrails are a load of guff. I know, BZ. I'm not surprised, believe it or not. Has anyone ever chemically analysed these supposed chemtrails for dodgy chemicals, other than just finding burnt jet fuel? Yes, Cliff Carnicum has done a massive amount of work on that. Emlyn-Jones says, never feel bad about asking a question, Nick. It's very good. It's a very good question too. You're quite right, Leanne, it is. I don't object to questions. I really don't. Sky watching the Triangle. Dr. Respect says, get yourself a high-powered laser pointer. I have one that reaches over 20 miles, and sometimes when I flash the sky, I get little glowing different colours, lights flashing back, very strange. Dr. Respect, please don't use laser pointers in the sky. Using a light is a torch, a very powerful, powerful light, a flashlight, torch, stroke flashlight, stroke. A light with a beam is absolutely fine, and they're very useful. Laser pointers are very dangerous. They can hurt people on planes, pilots, aircraft passengers. They're sometimes powerful enough to reach that high, and they can actually dazzle and damage the eye. So please don't use laser pointers if you're sky watching. Reply to comment 62. Charles Scott. Oh, brace yourselves. Your response at 1:08:11 to my comment in reply to comment 61, in the words of Steve Mumbling, is absolute rubbish. All right, let's see, Charles, shall we? I can guess what this is about. Oh, I haven't started. How long have I been recording for? Hang on. Bloody hell. I've been going for 40 minutes. All right, I'll do 45 on this. Sorry, guys, I forgot to start the recorder. There we go. I found out that OBS, actually, you can get a timestamp on OBS, so that's cool. Right, so where are we then? There we go. Charles Scott, what's this going to be about? Let's have a look. Let's just see, shall we? What I actually reply to this will depend on the subject you're talking about here. I think now, to be clear to your sane and honest YouTube viewers who have carefully investigated this matter, that you are spouting hot air by pursuing with your lying drivel narrative. Right, this is about... Right. Okay, Charles, I did say that I would... All right, Charles, I get the picture. You're completely wrong. You're completely wrong. It's not absolute rubbish. I've stated quite clearly that, I cannot discuss this issue with you. The issue, of course, you know what it is. I think everyone knows what it is now. You have stated quite clearly that you were presented with evidence by Chris Evers, as we all were, and you said that it's absolutely correct. This is evidence that proves his point. I presented you the same kind of evidence that Chris did, and you said, no, Ben, you have fabricated that. You have no evidence on either. You see, the evidence that both of us presented was equal. It's true, what Chris presented could indeed be genuine. It's equally true that he could have fabricated the evidence he presented. I myself presented evidence that I could tell you was genuine, because it is. Yet I might be lying. I might have fabricated it. These day and age, you can easily fabricate screenshots. It's very, very easy to do. You don't even need Photoshop. You can do it with Windows Paint. So, Charles, I've got to ask myself, if you are going to take that a priori attitude to evidence presented to you, and judge evidence with the same amount of weight in so different, contradictory ways, I can't discuss this subject with you. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand why? I can't discuss this subject with you because you are going to dismiss every single thing I say. This is more than just bias, Charles. This is a solipsistic attitude, I think, almost, to this whole position. So I'm afraid I cannot talk to you about this anymore. I'm not going to discuss this subject with you anymore. For that reason. If you want to talk about... I'm not going to delete your comments when you post them on this subject. But, I'm not going to respond to them. And if you want to post subject on another... If you want to post any comment on another subject, I'm quite happy to respond to you. Bernie Tucker says on Sky Watching the Triangle, I love these videos, Ben. What a lovely couple they are. Your great-great-grandfather would be so proud of the work you do, educating us. Keep up the good work. Thanks, sir. Oh, Bernie, if Johan Emlyn is out there and wants to contact me through a medium, I'd be quite happy to talk to him. Thing is, like, that's what you often get with mediumship and clairvoyance, is that there is it's rare for people to be approached by spirits that lived before their lifetime. So yeah, but you never know. If he wants to say anything, I'll be happy. If he wants to tell me he's proud of me, so he can do it. He can do it in Welsh if he wants. Yeah. Sky Watching the Triangle, nothing as it seems. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Blimey. Nothing as it seems. That sounds like Tony Blair. That literally sounds like Tony Blair. Dark Corner says on Mrs. Belchie's Breadstick Challenge. Oh, this is an old one. This is an old comedy one I did. And he says, brilliant. Thank you, Dark Corners. I'm glad you like it. I mean, the person I was actually lampooning, Mrs. Burpee, she actually thought it was pretty good as well. UFO Disclosure 2022. Why now? Oh, this is someone called Sean O'Nilbud. Oh God, Sean O'Nilbud has the gender study professor's apron as their avatar. Oh dearie me, that's the EU flag. Sean O'Nilbud is obviously part of the. I'm guessing you're Irish with your name. You're probably part of the whole, Leo Varadkar, Sinn Féin kind of pro EU Brussels fraternity. I'm guessing. I mean, stop me if I'm misjudging you, but when you have the gender study professor's apron as your avatar, what else am I supposed to think? I bet also I'm willing to guess that you voted to drop the 8th Amendment, didn't you, as well? Marky Boy says underneath. Well, sorry. What's Sean's message? Come on, Ben. Sean's message is it's not aliens. Oh right, he doesn't explain why. But Sean, why is it not aliens? Marky Boy says underneath, don't leave us hanging. What do you think it is? Good question, Marky. Good question. All right, if it's not aliens, then what is it? It's not aliens. Just 3 words. That's not an explanation. It's not a very good comment, Sean. I could say 2 + 2 = 5. End. Full stop. End of statement. Would that make it true? What is it if it's not that? Come on, Sean. You can do better than that. I know you're a bloody Ramona idiot, but come on, you can do better than that. Right, same video, Marley Pumpkin. Yet another childish disclosure video. Who cares? You are immature and naive. Oh, right. And you, Marley, are obsessed with watching a channel which you can't stand. And I've got to ask yourself, well, why is that? Oh, we got a long thread here now. Preacher Bear says, it's Genesis all over again. The Fallen. Oh, right. Oh, Neil Peel says, Neil Peel of the Paranormal Peep Show. What is Genesis 6 exactly? And Preacher says, fallen angels mated with human women and created a race that was not human. That's the Nephilim, yeah, from Genesis chapter 6, that's right. They were known within the Greek mythology as the Titans, and history as the Titans. Not quite, no, the Titans were something slightly different, but from what I gather. But anyway, they were wicked and caused the world to sin. That's why Noah was told to build his ark. The flood was an act of mercy by God. If he had not saved us from the giants, there would be no humans left. But the thing is, the giants are still here. They're still here, Preacher Bear. You live up to your name, by the way. The Bible speaks of genetic manipulation again in the end of days. The devil wants to turn the world into non-humans. By doing this, he denies them access to the grace of Christ. That is why I've been telling everyone to stay away from the V word. Yeah, the devil cannot create, just mutate. He has come to steal salvation. This is where it speaks of in Matthew 24:37. I hope this helps. God bless you. You know what, Preacher Bear? I don't share your religious faith, but I'm not an atheist, and I think that's actually a pretty good summary of what's going on in the world. I literally think, I don't believe in the literal form that your faith describes it as, but that there is a God and a devil, and there is a grace. What you call the grace of Christ actually exists, and indeed, that's pretty much what's going on in the world. It's literally going on in there, and that's actually what's happening. Neil says to Preacher Bear, okay, thanks. I'm not a Christian and never will be one. Why or how can a non-material being, an angel, mate with a human woman? The flood, an act of mercy by God? But hang on, he was responsible for the fallen angels. They fell during his watch. So God kills everyone who has sin by giving us the flood, yet it will not work because people still sin to this day. Then he supposedly sends Jesus to save us because the flood did not work. Yet God, being God, knew those angels would fall from grace because he knows everything. But somehow he can't clear up the mess. How is it that God, who creates the universe and suns and planets, can't quite manage to build an ark by his own power? That's a good... Neil, despite the fact, I said that Preacher Bear, the actual mythology of the Bible is actually accurate. There are issues with it, both logical and moral issues with it, which you have very well illustrated. So I don't really need to add anything. You've kind of said what I would have said. Preacher Bear says to Neil, so you don't want free will, then I take it. Neil says, I'd also like to add that Christians spout on about how Jesus died and gave his life for us to sacrifice to God, but so that we won't die. Yet Jesus did not give his life or do a self-sacrifice. Why? Because he supposedly rose 3 days later. If you're going to do a self-sacrifice, that means dying for good. But that was not the case. Preacher says, so you were there, were you? Your opinions matter more than 5,000 that saw Christ after he came back to life. Oh, and the letters from the Jewish church who wanted him dead are discounted. The letters saying he rose from the dead. Don't forget that the letter from Pontius Pilate to Caesar confirming Jesus was walking around after the cross. But you were there, right? Okay, I think you missed Neil's point, Preacher. He's actually pointing out a contradiction in the actual story of the Passion and things like that. I actually think that the Passion of the Christ was symbolic of our own relationship with the divine, and about how I don't like the idea of someone sacrificed to save us from our own action, the results of our own actions. Yeah, this is actually a recurring theme in mythology. It's found in other traditions that predate Christianity. But anyway, where was it now? Okay. But Preacher actually then goes on to question Neil on his knowledge of history, because he was not there, which is actually missing the point. Neil says to Preacher, please get your English correct. Where and were are two different meanings. You mean to say that, not where? Please also answer my first question before you try to deflect to other topics. Yeah, Preacher is actually deflecting. He is actually diverting and blockading a bit, isn't he? Preacher says, I'm dyslexic and recovering from a stroke. I apologise for poor speeding. There's no point answering your question. You are too close-minded. Well, Preacher, I'm sorry you're having these medical problems, and I wish you good luck in your recovery. And I hope you make a complete and rapid recovery. But no one could call Neil close-minded. I know Neil personally. I've met him many times. Neil says, sympathy for your stroke and dyslexia. I have minor dyslexia too. I'm very open-minded, so open-minded that I've been on 2 alpha courses. Oh, I didn't know that, Neil. And something called Christianity Explored, but all ducked out after I questioned them on heavy topics. None answered my question. And that's interesting, Neil, because I read John Ronson's report on the Alpha course. It claims like that the Alpha course, the guy, what's his name, Bernie Gumble or whatever his name, Reverend Gumble, he claims to be able to convert anyone with the Alpha course. And there are many people who've done the Alpha course who are Dawkinsian, absolutely materialistic Dawkinsian atheists who did become religious after that. Steve Mumbling says to Neil, that's rich coming from you, Neil. That's all you ever do. Oh, blimey. We've opened up a can of worms now. Preacher Bear says to Neil, thank you for your words. Alpha is not great, and I do hope they stop doing it. The big problem is the Church of England are no longer what we would call a Christian church. So left and liberal, they're no more than a social club. I'll do my best to answer what I can, one question at a time, please. Well, Preacher, I have to admit you're right about the C of E. It's so damn woke. It really is. It's the kind of people I have now are like, it's almost like a hippie commune. Unfortunately, a lot of Anglicans actually converted to Roman Catholicism who were more conservative. But now, based on the things Pope Francis has said, it sounds like the infection has spread to Rome. Actually, you know what? A lot of people I know who are conservative Christians are becoming Eastern Orthodox now, Greek Russian Orthodox. They're not Greek or Russian, but they're becoming Greek and Russian Orthodox because they see that's the only based church left, they say. Although I think, well, we'll see how it goes, but it could be a bit like climbing up the mast on a sinking ship. It all depends exactly how Russia defends itself, I think, in geopolitical terms. Neil says to Preacher Bear, you would think with paying as Alpha does that they would be, with praying as Alpha does, that they would be A, able to get God's help to convince people like me to be convinced, and B, with continued praying, go on to greater things. My question was, with regard to your comment on free will, God commanded Noah to build the ark. It was not a request. You say we have free will. And Neil says to Steve, all I ever do is what? You know what Steve's going to say, don't you, Neil? Preacher Bear says to Neil, God commanded Noah, yes. Let's look at Noah. He was a righteous man who served and loved the Lord. He was a preacher of repentance, so he was in service to the Lord. He was already using his free will to choose and serve the Lord. Yeah, preacher. It's a recurring theme within within the Bible, within the Old Testament, that you find worlds of sin, and there's like a little island of virtue, who is usually just a family or even a single individual, like Lot and Noah, people like that. This is why Lot and his family were rescued from Sodom and Gomorrah by angels. You get a lot of that in the Bible. Anyway, I'll carry on. There is no conflict of free will when God commands him to action, just as when an employee is told to do a task by an employer. There is already free will and consent to receive instructions and respond with effort or labour. I see. So, in a sense, what you're saying is obviously the analogy, I think, if I understand it, is that yes, when an employee is given an order by their employer, the order has to be obeyed. Such as if I'm given an order by my head porter, I obey it. Not the free will comes in the fact that I signed up to be a hospital porter. I signed a contract of employment. So in a said that contract includes that the very conditions, the individual conditions within my service, where the head porter gives me orders, is in a sense I've already said I'm going to comply as a result of my contract of employment. And if I breach that by disobeying an order, then I can essentially commit mutiny, NHS mutiny, and I can then be discharged. I can be sacked, which indeed it almost happened at one point. if you read the HPWA blog or listen to this gas spanner, you'll know that. So yeah, I mean, that's actually I think that's the point. If you extend that to belief in God, then you're essentially saying the same thing. Becoming a Christian essentially means when God commands, or becoming a believer in God means when you're commanded to action, you then have essentially given your free will already in that sense. Neil says to Preacher Bear, an employer usually gets their employees to do something that they can't do. In this case, God commands Noah to build an ark so God can make planets, but he has to get people to make arks for him, or write scriptures and books. Oh, those animals going into the ark, they went in by free will, or God commanded them? Well, I imagine they went in by some kind of commandment, because you wouldn't normally get lions and gazelles going into the same place together. Steve Bumbling says to Neil, your original comment seems to have disappeared. Oh, sorry, your original comment seems to have disappeared. I can't recall what it was, to be honest. What did you think of my Calvine video? Oh, Steve, have you done a Calvine video? I must see that. Neil said, I don't know why my comment vanished, but I was asking why God had to get Noah to make him an ark when he creates planets and galaxies, amongst other things. No, I've not seen your video. Send me a link, please. Oh, right, I'll have to see Steve's Calvine video. Preacher Bear says to Neil, God got Noah to fulfill a task that would be a sign for all to repent. If you witnessed a man committed to building, let's say, a bunker for some coming nuclear war, and he was saying stock up food for your family and stop wasting money, this is what Noah was doing. He was showing by his actions that what he believed was what was going to happen. Yeah, I mean, people laughed at him, didn't they? He lived inland, so he says, why are you building a boat? You live inland. So many people forget that Noah was a preacher of repentance. He was rejected by the wicked. There was a space on the ark, but no one wanted the terms of entry. There was space on the ark, but no one wanted the terms of entry. This was repent from your evil ways. Jesus Christ is a representative of the ark. He offers safe passage to the Father. He uses words like door and enter into. Just like Noah's door to the ark was open for all to enter until the day of judgment, presumably the day of the flood in that particular story. We have that offer. It's called grace. We can freely enter to our ark. That is Jesus. It costs us nothing, but there is a requirement. That is repentance. If you want to accept the offer of grace, we need to repent. We are renewed in our hearts. Jesus says if we love him, we will do as he asks. I'll be like, do this in remembrance of me in the Eucharist. Yeah, I see what you mean. The word ask is not a command, it is free will. We use our free will to accept the conditions of salvation. If we accept grace and continue to willfully sin, then we never truly accepted the terms of the contract. That's the covenant, in other words, yeah. We mock the offer of the pain and suffering that Christ took in our place. Do we as Christians sin? Yes, we are not perfect, but we repent and fight the sin. It's a daily fight, however, he's worth it. I understand your point, I think, Preacher Bear. And indeed, there is a message, there is a fundamental message in both the Old Testament and in the Gospel, which illustrates the illustrates the kind of oh god, there's more replies here. Illustrates the relationship between humans and the divine. Yeah. Oh, but this goes on. Hang on. Neil says God commanded Noah to build an ark so he could then kill everyone. And right, I think I think we've already read these. I think this is kind of YouTube kind of repeating the thread again. I don't know why it does this. No, it's not. Hang on, no, it's not. With free will to make their own decisions. God, this is Neil. God did not say to the people of the world, to be fair, look, I'm going to kill you all unless you change your ways. That is kind of interfering in either way. Convert or come with me. So no free choice, or die, no free choice. Besides, God only told Noah to build an ark. God did not instruct anyone else. The idea was to start again, a new Adam. However, God made the mistake yet again because the world soon turned wicked again within a generation or two of the flood. God could not foresee that. Why did he not build the ark himself? God is the creator. Why did he have to destroy the whole world with a flood to remove wicked people? If he had that power, why could he not soften their hearts as such? And Neil says also again, you missed the third option. You assume that we trust them or not to give them the death penalty. Or you imprison them. That's the third choice. Whilst you work out why they did it and can be working out their mental state, you could come up with a solution that stops them or other nutters doing it again. Your God seems unable to read minds to offer more practical solutions. His only solution to anything is not going his way, is to kill. Yeah, it's one of the contradictions. Why doesn't God do this or that? Yeah. It's like the old Epicurean argument, What is it? Let me find the Epicurean argument. Epicurean. Yeah, Epicurean argument of God, yes. I'll just try and find it here. This is the thing, Epicurus. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then where does evil come from? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? It's like yes, that was a very good thing, wasn't it? There's actually let me just try and find. Let me just try and find the actual video of it all. Yeah. There's a video somewhere. Let me just burn it. Let's have a look. Where is it? So I can't find the video, but it's actually read out by Bernard Hill, the actor, it's actually read out by him in this documentary with Henry Miller, the guy who's a famous atheist. That's interesting that, yeah, here we go. Neil carries on. A good example of this is Moses finally reaching the promised land after 40 years. It's always 40. That number 40 keeps coming up in the Bible again and again, doesn't it? 40 days, 40 nights, 40 days in the wilderness, 40 years, yeah. That's right, that's the story of the Exodus, and, yeah. By guidance of God of how to get there, yes. Even parts the Red Sea, doesn't it? Yeah. It only takes about 10 days on foot from Egypt, using very basic navigation, by the way. Yeah. God somehow missed that, but I digress. When Moses gets to the promised land, lo and behold, he finds a load of people already there. So God, in his wisdom, not offering them free will to do as they want, orders Noah to kill them all. Take the women folk as your slaves. No free will there. That's not a practical, forward, all-knowing God. He fails to get Moses to the promised land in a reasonable amount of time, assisting him by flooding the Dead Sea after he's crossed it, killing the Egyptian soldiers pursuing him. Then he finds to his utter astonishment a tribe of people already camped in the promised land. Could God not foresee this? Yeah. I mean, I do wonder, it seems God could actually break the laws of physics to make water behave in weird ways, to kill Ramesses and the other Egyptians. Why couldn't he just smite the Canaanites? Get them out of the way. Same as when Moses comes back and finds them worshipping the golden calf. Again, why did God tolerate that? It's a good point, yeah. Neil Peacher Bear says, okay, first Moses didn't get to the promised land. He was a murderer. Look, I've been as understanding as I can be. I asked you one question at the time you ramble on. Here's a simple question. If I gave you 100% proof today the Bible was 100% true and the Word of God, would you become a Christian today? Neil says to Preacher Bear, oh, fire away with your 100% proof. Does not mean I have to become a Christian. It's my free will to pick and choose. You could give me 100% proof that you've made the most tastiest cake in the world. I'm not obliged to agree eating it. Preacher Bear says to Neil, it was a question, not an offer. There lays your problem. If I give you 100% proof the Bible's 100%, you will become a Christian. This is because the Bible teaches the only way to heaven is through Christ. Okay, I think I've spent enough time and energy on this conversation. I will pray for a change of heart for you. I hope you do before the day of judgment. Goodbye, Neil. Okay, that's the end of it. That's a long thread. But I must say, I do understand Neil's point. If someone gave me proof the Bible is 100% real, it would be in my interest. It would be intellectually dishonest and indeed obstinate for me not to become a Christian. You know, if I was in a position, for example, in the Left Behind novels, and believe it or not, I've read them all 14 of them. I've read them all. God blimey, can you believe it? But it was audiobook, to be honest. I put them on my earphones at work, but I did read all of them. It would be in my interest to go along with what logic said. But you know, I mean, if I didn't, I'd be the equivalent of the woo-woo that David Smith and Steve Mumbling say I am. Yeah. Anyway, interesting thread, guys. That's a bloody long one. Yeah, that's a long one. But thank you very much. UFO Disclosure 20. I've forgotten where we were now. Let's get the. I forgot what was the topic. Yeah, the video. UFO Disclosure 2022. Why now? Jock of Ages. It reminds me of the craft that was described in the Cash Landrum incident. Yeah, believe it or not, Jock, you're not the first person to say that. I was approached on Facebook by someone who said that very same thing. Yeah. And that odd. Yeah, but it has differences. For example, for what we know, it didn't have the effect on the environment and indeed the witnesses that this particular object had. But there are a lot of similarities. You're right, Jock. Same video, Barty's Den. You need a good sleep by the sounds of it, Ben. I think I did, you know. I won't drink making videos like that again. It's just I was so excited by everything that was happening. I thought, I've got to make a video about this. I've got to. Garden Telepathy, that's a good name, says on the same video, cheers, Ben. You're welcome. You're welcome, Garden Telepathy. That's a great name. I love that. I love your name. And we have now a thread from Dr. Respect. Dr. Respect says here on UFO Disclosure 2022, you also have to take into account that the closest star is Alpha Centauri, which is 25 trillion miles away. If you travelled at 1 mile a second, which is pretty damn fast, for 1 trillion seconds you would have travelled 1 trillion miles, which is 1/24th of the way to Alpha Centauri. 1 trillion seconds comes out as 31,000 years, and you will have to do that for another 24 times just to reach Alpha Centauri. Not only that, the inverse square law of light makes it impossible for anyone to see anything at that distance. It's 4.5 light years altogether. So even at light speed, assuming you could just instantly reach light speed without acceleration, which is impossible, it would take you 4.5 years to get there. Yeah, and that's the nearest star. That's the nearest. Most of them are much further away than that. And David says, yes, and yet it is visible. It's visible, yeah, but you can't see it in detail. You can't you couldn't map a planet with Google Earth on one of the stars orbiting it. Marky Boy says, if you believe space, as NASA tells us, oh God. But what if it's not? I mean, I cannot be sure without seeing it myself. Who knows what those points of light are in the night sky? I have no real idea. A red flag is rising, Marky. A big flat red flag. Don't worry, if you're a flatty, I'm not going to hold it against you. But space does exist. You don't need... You can tell that right now. It's just what you see above you. You can also tell by the horizon the Earth is a sphere floating in space. Yeah. And Dr. Respect says to Marky Boy, exactly my point. Unless you go there yourself, it's all speculation. And being nobody has one photo of the Earth from space says a lot, don't you think? Even the moon landings they sent supposedly men to the moon, who never mentioned the Earth the entire time and didn't go, wow, look at our home planet, look how beautiful she is. I mean, come on, it was supposed to be the biggest event in human history, and they didn't pan around to the Earth, didn't mention the Earth, and just played golf and push a stick into the ground with some pretty colours, and then came home and said they have rocks from the moon, which evidently turned out to be petrified wood. Mark, Dr. Respect, everything you say about the moon landings I agree with. The big questions which I bring up with Neil Peel and the others in the Apollo Detectives is absolutely true. But it's not speculation to say that space exists, the moon, the stars, planets exist. That's not speculation. That's based on overwhelming evidence. However, when it comes to the achievements of space exploration, you're right to question them. Okay, Lisa Croy Freedom says on Sky Watching the Triangle, it's always horrible coming back from the beautiful green country. A lovely time you had there, Ben. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Lisa. You're welcome. Lisa Cry Freedom says here also, absolutely disgusting, read Cash. I'd have truly said what I thought about that, as you know. Not been on public transport since all this crap started, but before that, I used to take my own wine with me in the end, because the price of it, and sit in a quiet corner, lol. Does my head in this insane garbage. This situation will not reverse if people don't say no more. Simple as that, Ben. Correct. We just have to say, we have to do what I did. Go to the place in... leave the cashless coffee shop alone and go to the place in Gloucester Green Market where they take cash. That's what you do. Definitely. UFO Disclosure 2022, why now? Sandra Shufflebottom. Hey, Sandra, how you doing? How you doing? Nice to hear from you. Same as the labs I worked in, King of the Bus. Same as labs I worked at, King of the Bus. Really funny. Don't do UFO Twitter, and so glad by the sounds of it. Pontificating, one of my dad's words. Great vidbed, nice one. Thanks, Sandra. Thank you very much. Yeah, pontificating is a good one, isn't it? Yeah. I didn't know you worked at labs. Not the alien ones, was it? Okay, here's Steve mumbling on the same video. Here's another comment for you to delete, Ben. It's most likely an experimental lighter-than-air intelligence gathering platform being tested by the RAF MOD. That would easily explain the secrecy. Okay, this is Steve's done a video about this. Right. Oh, it's only a short one. Right, firstly, Steve, I haven't deleted your comment. Let's just see what Steve says about this. Yeah, maybe it's worth... Maybe I'm going to break a rule and just watch this, actually. Or should I... It's a short... It's only 8 minutes. I'll watch it. There we go. Come on, get on with it, Steve.
The Calvine UFO incident. And Nick Pope tells us it was the best UFO picture he'd ever seen.
That's not the photo.
He had it.
That is Nick Pope's facsimile, or maybe you're going to explain that. Oops.
In his office for a while. I'll leave a link to Nick Pope's video below.
His Royal Popeness.
And this is actually a recreation. He said it's an extremely accurate recreation.
Sorry, Steve. You know that. You know that's not the photo.
Recreation of the photograph, because the photograph mysteriously disappeared. It was sent to somebody and never came back. This looks like a Harrier here.
It is, yeah.
Now, what in this photograph immediately tells us?
That's not a photograph.
Now, bear in mind,
you've just said it's not a photograph.
Over the years, he was telling us all that originally he was just the guy on the UFO desk that took the reports, and I've seen other videos where he's described as the British Ministry of Defence.
All right. Now, on the subject of Nick Pope and the stolen valour he supposedly committed, this has been going around a lot, actually, that he has aggrandised his role within the MOD, and that he actually was not who he says he was. That, I think, can be explained in another way. I don't believe, I believe that he was who he says he was. But if there's the discrepancy between what people have discovered and what he says he was comes from the fact that Nick, how should I put this? Nick Pope, praise be upon him, was in a role where he was essentially seconded from another government agency that also begins with the letter M.
British Ministry of Defence. It's Fox Mulder. He's out there.
Oh, come on, get on with it.
Spacecraft. Like dart fins these are. You probably can't see it on this camera, but I'll leave a link.
Hang on, Steve. Let's get on to the photo, shall we?
It's not going to be
Are you actually going to look at the
real
photo?
alien space.
All right, Steve. That's all right, Steve. What you're talking about here is not the actual photo. It's Nick Pope commissioned a facsimile, as you said. You yourself said that. So why? Oh dear. Anyway, so there you are. Anyway, I haven't deleted it. Okay. You say it's most likely an experimental lighter than air intelligence gathering platform. It's a possibility. That is a possibility. It certainly wasn't the Aurora, because the Aurora was an aeroplane. Someone else, incidentally, I was actually on a Skype call with my sort of local Skype call. Well, they're not local, but they're people who are into paranormal stuff. We have like a Skype call every Friday. It's a tradition that began in the lockdown. He said he thought it was some kind of airship. It was some kind of airship, or like a drone airship, something like that. And that is a possibility. It really is. In which case, I mean, there's reasons to doubt it. Firstly, the fact that if it was a classified operation, why were they flying it at low altitude in central Scotland? Where people. And secondly, the antiquity of objects which are similar in form but behave in a very, very different way, which indicates they're certainly not lighter than air intelligence gathering platforms. So, I mean, I actually did make these points in the video, Steve. So you could explain, but it is what you've just said is actually a possibility. Social dilemma, pride and dignity, Brother Porter. Says on Why Now. Good show, Ben. I was thinking about UFOs and cryptids today. Well, maybe we can cover it on the next third rail, Trevor. That'd be great. Gardening with Nick says, Luis Elizondo, on the same video, Luis Elizondo said on Twitter not long ago that we are halfway to disclosure. In my opinion, I think we're nowhere near disclosure. It's a lot of talk and not much progression, or maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, I hope you are wrong. It all depends on a lot of conditions, Nick. I mean, Lewis says we're halfway. If a best case scenario, we've made a lot of progress in this year so far. In the 8 months of this year so far, which contradicts the prediction I made in January. Halfway, I'd like to believe that was true. I don't know. Or unless we're heading for some sort of fate disclosure, is also a possibility. Jack Parker says on Why Now. I agree. I guess working science would call what you're doing with your hands alleviation of hyperventilating. I've acquired a morning ritual, seems transiently, pounding my chest like an ape in the morning, but even further pounding comfortably like a drum mid-area stomach sometimes. Top of size near hip joints, back front hip joints, stomach basically size. That sounds like the old, what's it called, the tapping, that David Childerley does, Anyway, and not only a paramedic might be able to solve a person's chest, stimulate the circulation, I kind of pound on my butt on one side, chick on the other while laying down down all of this. Maybe I should incorporate also the hand anti-hyperventilation maneuver. I serendipitous they have noticed a marked increase in my circularity order, especially while immediately after these pounding therapeutic maneuvers. I'm not sure if the exercise belt shakes that stomach. Hang on, I'm not going to read all of this, Jack. It's too far off topic, but you're describing a fitness regime and health regime you do, and it's just great. I'm pleased for you. Why Now, Jack Parker. Seems the body has staging process. If you're eating cravings correctly, things have to be sort of moved into dynamic action, I suspect affiliated with unidirectional lymph node circulation in the morning. Some call this a yawn at a different level. Okay. Jack Parker, the yawn, which is actually what you're doing there intermittently, just indicators of respiratory stretching, not a problem, an adjustment. Alright, it's where I go. Yeah, oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, just something I do when I'm broadcasting, and I'll try what you're suggesting here, tapping your chest and your stomach and pounding, but I mean, it's not a problem, Jack. It's not a sign of ill health. It doesn't get in the way really of what I'm doing. But thanks for the advice, Jack. All right, all right, Jack. The phases get misread as maladies quite often. The effect drunk science quack doctors put out of balance further by extrapolating chemistry. Our working science doesn't allow us even to look at or notice our visitors. Kind of myopic data collection process, not really trustable. Well, I mean, I notice the visitors, don't I? Jack, slight typo there if I was able to trace it. They said, I've noticed the mark increase in my circulation. Good on you. What's now? Oh, what's happening now? Oh, hang on. Okay, whoops. Oh, Jack's got loads of comments here. Jack, can I just treat these? You've got like about 20 comments here. Can I just go through them? Can I just skim them, do you mind? Because there's so much here. After that very, very long thread about the Bible, this video, I can't make this video too long. You mentioned a bizarre cult-like connection to ritual. Don't want to think about Jamestown Jim Jones. I try not to. No, definitely not. Another exercise. Do you want to breathe? Comfortable breathing. Things get lagged, get bogged down. Okay, it's amazingly mechanical. Okay. So I don't mean as you ride the systemic discipline, you'll notice women looking at you more. Oh, right, well, that's reason enough to try it, mate. Yeah. All right. So I mean, I'm sorry. You are kind of going. You're sort of reading stuff out, which I don't really know what to make of. And there's a lot of it here, Jack. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to skip what you're writing here, and I'm very sorry about that. But it does not make any sense to me. And you've got an awful lot of it here, but I'll leave your comments here, and people can actually go through them if they want. So apologies for that. Right, why now, Neil Peel? Oh, how will mumbling come to terms with this little gem? Well, he's just done a video, Neil, where I know I didn't watch it all, but he just seems to be analysing Nick Pope's little facsimile. Oh, well, here he is. Speak of the convenient. It is the mumbler himself. And gone again. I'm not deleting your comment. Shut up, Steve. You really can't handle the truth, can you, Ben? Construction and storage of one of these large intelligence-gathering platforms would require a large hangar, very like the one at Royal Air Force Machrihanish. Well, Steve, if you look on a map, you'll see that RAF Machrihanish is a long way from Pitlochry, but it doesn't know why I have to travel that far to fly at low altitude, but there you go. Why now, Graham Park? Interesting stuff. Thanks, Graham. Thank you very much. Glad you like it. Rick Horden says on Trump FBA Ride live stream, cheers, Ben, you're an absolute diamond. Thank you. Thanks, Rick. Thank you very much. Diego Rivera, same video. Will Trump being abducted by aliens be the final plot twist? Oh, good grief! I hope the deep state doesn't borrow a line from Dynasty. That would be awful, wouldn't it? Why now, Gary Robertson? Very interesting, mate. There's definitely something going on regarding disclosure. Hey, cheers! Yes, indeed. Yes. Gary Robinson says here again. Speaking of paranormal experiences, Ben, this is on Why Now. The last one was on Why Now as well. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Randall Carlson was talking about the possibility of certain aspects of geology causing effects on the human mind, causing us to have experiences. Could certainly be the cause of some reports, I guess. Right, this is like Paul Devereaux put forward this same theory about how geoelectricity, how certain phenomena would appear in certain areas, and it was often areas where there were certain types of geological structures. I don't know, it's possible. I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean the phenomena are not real. It could mean that the electricity interacting with our brains switches it in the same way as a psychedelic does to perceiving different levels of reality. Gary Robinson says on Why Now, Ben, mate, you mentioned the woke Lord of the Rings TV show. Have you been keeping up with the news on that show? It's been universally rejected by fans. Oh, I know. 1.2 million downvotes on the trailer. Gary, why do you think YouTube got rid of dislikes? You can actually get an app so you can actually see the dislikes, yeah. And Sargon of Akkad did that. The showrunners and actors have been doing interviews talking about nothing but, you guessed it, diversity and inclusion, and how amazing they are over and over again. They've also admitted the show has nothing to do with Tolkien. They have indeed. One of them actually said, we want to reject Tolkien and get rid of it. You know why? Because the bastards, these pieces of shit. It's because Christopher Tolkien died. Those pieces of shit, they've been circling him for years, this guy, Christopher Tolkien, that was JR's son. They've been circling him like a flock of rainbow-coloured vultures. And, of course, he died, actually, in, I believe, January 2021. And that's when they pounced. And they said, right, now because because Christopher's gone, because Christopher Tolkien would never stand for this. Yeah, and it is. It's not even canon. You know, it's not canon. It's literally just glorified fan fiction. They're not even allowed to use the word hobbit. They call them half-feet. There's these creatures in it called half-feet, who are obviously the hobbits, but they don't say hobbit. It's like, because hobbit, of course, you know, a lot of the creatures in Tolkien are mythological. They're existing mythological, dwarfs, elves, etc. You know, but you know, the hobbits, of course, was an actual creation of Tolkien. It's something he invented. So yeah, I mean, I reckon it'll run for a season. They'll probably maybe do a sequel because they can't admit defeat on this, and then it'll just quietly be axed because no fucker will watch it, will they? And of course, and as I've said before, you know, if that is the case, then unfortunately, you know, it doesn't matter how all powerful the Illuminati are, you know, you can't fund it on nothing. Erasmiavoskis, hello Erasmiavoskis, how are you? Trump FBI raid. Hello Ben, so lovely to see you and appreciate that you stand for something. It amazes me that people trash talk Alex Jones and Trump when they have risked so much. Why on earth would you put yourself and your family through so much attack and danger? When people say it's all just a show, it blows my mind. Not much to say other than we saw what happened to JFK, right? And it's not. And let's not go on the Clinton body count. It's just so obvious after going through the pandemic tyranny people. Are you not aware by now? Unbelievable to me that some can't handle the truth. Thank you, Ben, for being a gentleman. Oh, you're welcome, Erasmi, and thank you very much for that comment. You're totally right. To me, it's just the people who just badmouth. Oop, that's the end of the hour. The people who badmouth Trump and things like that. It's like they're just. I think they want to be part of this. I think they've got the idea that it's somehow cool to be anti-Trump. You know, it's pathetic. Thank you very much, Erasmi, for that comment. That's the end of an hour, guys. Okay, guys, hour number 4. Is this going to go over 4 hours? Bloody heck. It might do. Matthew, because we've still got bit shooting the others to do. So Matthew Howell says on UFO Disclosure 2022, why now? I wish they'd disclose everything, or whatever these things are, would come out for the world to see. I'm getting tired of being called a liar and being looked at like I didn't see what I saw. Actually. My daughter saw them plain as day. She told me the other day that people don't believe her when she tells them about it, and it breaks my heart. I had to tell her not to mention it, but that's fucked up, and I had to say that. Oh, Matthew, in that fact, I mean, I would like to see disclosure simply to vindicate all these people who've been laughed at for so long. These people have been treated as you have been treated, have been called crazy. Not least, you know, that's bad enough, you know, but, you know, that is bad. That's an awful thing. Others have lost their jobs. They've been retired from their military service and things like that with a reduced pension and stuff like that. They've been struck off the medical register. You know, all kinds of ways that people have suffered in order to maintain this truth embargo. And it's been done so callously by those who want to keep the secret. I'm sure many of them justify it to themselves, but there's no excuse, absolutely no excuse at all. And of course, I think in a sense we're already in that era now where you can actually say these things and be taken more seriously. The problem is that the people who've treated you like this and your daughter like this, they're probably, most of them are not going to admit they were wrong. Most of them will probably just say something like, well, you know, cool. Oh, UFOs are real, aliens are real. I said so all along, didn't I? I said this from the start. You know, Professor Simon Holland is trying to do this. He's trying to rewrite his own history. Maybe Dr. David Clarke will. I don't know. I mean, David Clarke to give him credit, he's being honest about the whole thing. But what will he say to the people like he used to? Well, not him really, but there's others. You know, there's other people. There's who are a lot more scathing. People like Cal Korff. You know, what are they going to say? Are they just going to come out? Oh yeah, they're just going to try and bury their past and say, yes, I always believed they were real. I said so all along, didn't I? Problem is, we've got them on record saying otherwise, aren't they? Yeah. Probably people like Chris French and Mick West will admit that they were wrong. Others, like Professor Brian Cox, people who lack the emotional maturity to deal with things like that, are probably going to. They'll probably just go into hiding or something. Whoops. Alright, that's still going. What happened there? Something weird happened to OBS. Is it still working? Yeah, still recording. Sorry guys, it's recording. Still going. Something weird happened there with OBS. Sorry about that, ladies and gents. I'm assuming it's still going. No reason to think otherwise. Marky Boy says underneath, they may well deal with it. The way I deal with it is I know what I saw. It doesn't matter if someone doesn't believe me, as they were not there. I know, Marky, that's true. Exactly. You yourself have had a sighting. I know. Diego Rivera says on Why Now, the Scottish UFO looks man-made. I'm not sure how you can tell, Diego Rivera. By what criteria of appearance from one photograph do you use? Randall Thomas says on Trump FBI raid, and that is spam, which I'll get rid of. Kerry Woolley says on Trump FBI raid, blue stroke red, left stroke right, politics lunatics. Well, it is mostly Kerry Woolley. In fact, the term monoparty, which Stefan Molyneux uses, is a very good one. However, obviously there are exceptions. Trump is an exception in that case. There are others as well. TK says on Why Now, in your analogy about the bank robbers and the swag and the police, what is supposed to be what? What's the UFO? Who are the police supposed to be? Who are the bank robbers? So the police are not currently looking for the swag, or are they? All right. Maybe it wasn't clear enough. In my analogy, the bank robbers are the people keeping the UFO secrets. The swag is the secrecy about UFOs, and the police are the general public. Does that help at all? Right. Dark Corner says on Trump FBI raid, I once met Bill Maynard. Oh yeah, the actor, aka Greengrass from Heartbeat, in a small chippy in Whitby back in the mid-90s. Bill was on his lunch break from filming the show and was in full Greengrass get-up, very popular down-to-earth man by all accounts. He stood for a good 20 minutes talking to his fans and taking pictures with them before returning to filming. Thoroughly charming individual. Oh, it's nice they do that, because I mean, there's so many of them are totally and utterly obnoxiously up their own arses, aren't they? And they just, but then they just, when fans come along and say, hey mate, how you doing this? Oh, go away, But I like the ones that like to talk like that to people. Jamnoy72, hi soul sister, how you doing? Here we go. Actually, Jam Noise is not happy about a certain thing, which she's going to talk about. I actually hate the actor Donald Trump because of his role he played for the New World Order. I can't see my daughter. I actually put a comment here saying I don't think he's an actor, sis. He's genuinely, sadly, he lost control, probably due to the threats to his family. Remember the fire in Trump Tower? He doesn't want you to be separated from your daughter. It's a horrible thing. We've already discussed it with Gary Robinson, Jackie. I really think if the mono-party under Biden were not in control of things and Trump had somehow managed to overcome, you would be able to go there anytime you liked. I honestly believe that. So, I mean, I don't think it's fair to blame Trump. I don't think he's an actor. But I really hope this gets sorted out for you very soon. As you know, I really want that to happen for you. Tessa1111 says in Trump FBA raid livestream, the thing that bothers me mostly is Trump / his family, children by Ivana, were still mourning for their loss when the alphabet soup raided their property. No concern for anyone. Proof positive. And that is true. She died, didn't she? Ivana Trump died. When did she die? Ivana Trump. Here she is. Was a Czech American businesswoman, media personality. Here we go. Died July the 14th. There we are. Yeah, it's less than a month later. Less than a bloody month later. Absolute heartless bastards. Really, they are. They're heartless scum. David Smith says here on Trump FBA live stream. So you do use skepticism when it suits you. Pictures of toilet stuffed with shredded documents could be anything. That's right. There's called skepticism, Ben. I know. Now apply that to all your paranormal and conspiracy beliefs, like the judge in the AJ case said. Just because you believe something doesn't make it true. David, I honestly think I try to do that. I mean, I know I'm biased because everyone is biased. If anyone says they're not biased, it's not true. They're lying. Or they deluded themselves. I do apply that logic to my own beliefs. This is why I allow you and Steve Mumbling to say the things you do. This is why we have this discussion. These dialogues on this reply to comments video is me doing that, David. It's me doing that. Exactly what you say. Now, how do we tell when Trump is telling a lie, or Trump is telling a lie because he's been forced to by the NWO, or when Trump is telling the truth? From what I can tell, it all depends on the beliefs of the conspiracy theorist. It seems to be faith over evidence. Well, no, I mean, I actually did make the point that there was a reason when Trump actually was in this position where he told a lie over the whole Syria thing. It was after the fire in Trump Tower. It was actually after the fire in Trump Tower. The conclusion is being put before the examination of the evidence. If Trump wins, then we've defeated the NWO. If Trump loses, then the NWO stopped him. Whatever the outcome, your beliefs will be confirmed despite the lack of good evidence. This isn't a rational way of thinking or finding the truth. It is, David, it is when we can actually explain exactly the mechanism by which what Trump does or does not do. So, for example, if he wins the New World Order and we see signs of fraud and how he overcame that, well, there we are. If he doesn't, and the means by which he was prevented from doing so are obvious and have been exposed and have been analysed, indeed, which is what happened in the last, thing, which I can't say, involving fraud, then that's how we do it. That's where it comes to. And now, if you think otherwise, you can put your case across. You can explain to me why you think that thing was fair, why that selection was fair. Trump FBI override live stream. Cosmic Claire says, sorry I missed this, Ben. I think it was a concert when you did it. No problem, Claire. I hope you enjoy the recording. Do check out Claire's new book, and the War on Gender. It's very, very good. And indeed, she's done some interviews with many people, including me, about it. Nope, film review, new video. Rick Horden. I'm not entirely sure this film is of benefit to the UFO community, Ben, lol. I don't think it is at all, Rick. I think it is in a sense, it's a rather simplistic science fiction story, which it seems that Jordan Peele seems to exhibit a very basic understanding of ufology, which probably came from just looking at a few Tucker Carlson interviews. You know, because the Nimitz footage is mentioned there, which is something I think very interesting. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Nope, again, not seen this yet. Cheers, Ben, mate. You're welcome, Gary. If you watch it, I hope you enjoy it more than I did. JMH says, why now? He's quoting me here. More likely to be extraterrestrial than not. Do you even Occam's razor, bro? Oh, right. Well, yes, I do, you see. You see, the reason I think it is more likely to be extraterrestrial or not is what I have discovered, and I actually go through the process by which I make that decision. Occam's razor is not something that starts with some a priori assumption that says, well, you have to eliminate everything non-ET before you conclude ET. Regardless, it doesn't matter how unlikely it is. You still have to select that first as more, even though it's incredibly unlikely. You have to treat it as if it is more likely because it's non-ET. I never understood that principle, JMH. Indeed, I've explained why in my video about Skeptics, like the last one I did at the Swansea UFO Network. SUFON, do check that out. So I do explain why I think that. If you think I'm wrong, tell me so. Why now, Marky Boy? Hi, Ben. It's been a while. I had a busy time. But the earbud is back as I work at a better new job. Good to listen again. Hey, nice one, Marky. Nice one. Good to see you back. And it's good that you have a job where you can do that. I'm lucky enough also to have a job where I can do that. Yes. Dagjab says on Alex Jones in court, what is it with America? Whenever an event like SH happens, it's become as patriotic as 9/11. Yet if this happened in some other country like the UK, most people wouldn't care less. There wouldn't be a big fuss about it like the Yanks do. When the Manchester Arena attack happened, I say happened, not as it's obvious that it was staged. I'm glad you agree, Dag. Hardly anyone made any fuss about it. Same with 7/7. Yet everything that happens in the US, they go mental over it. Yeah, Dag. All nationalities, have an in-group preference. I mean, that's normal. It seems to be very excessive with Americans, and I think that's got a lot to do with the Americans are actually very insular people. And I think that might have to do with the size of their own nation. I mean, the United States, in terms of area and population, I think is the 4th biggest in the world. And also, it's to do with. It's also to do with the geographical isolation of the United States. So, for example, I mean, this is why the US doesn't really need the huge military it has. All it really needs is a very basic coastal defence force, because it has, like I said, a shining sea on each side. Friendly nations, Canada and Mexico, to the north and south on land borders. Those themselves are also very large countries. Canada is actually larger than the United States. So you really literally have to go thousands of miles to see an enemy if you're American, not including the ones in your own country, of course. It could be the drug dealer next door. It could be the globalist in the White House. But either way, there are enemies. There are internal enemies. But you see, one of the oaths of the President of the United States is to defend the country from enemies, external or internal. Well, the United States doesn't have any external enemies. It only has internal ones. But yeah, I mean, they're an insular people, and that's not a criticism of Americans. It's simply an inevitable outcome of their society. Marky Boy says, and why now? To be honest, I would rather listen to the average normal person witness, whom I can gauge by the persona and body language, rather than any governmental spokesperson or so-called leaders. Are all dodgy and lies as far as I can see, especially over the past 2 years. Not half, Marky, not half. Me too. Alex Jones, Marky. I'm under the impression that Al Gore, the algorithm removes a lot of comments on the awful censored YouTube. Yes, it certainly does. Interesting spelling you used there. But I understand what you're saying, yes. Nope, Film Reviews, David Smith. Someone finally made a movie about a UFO disguised as clouds, just like I've been commenting for years. Next up, they will be disguised as planes. I'm obviously getting too close to the truth. Very good. Very droll, David. But, the fact of the matter is, UFOs disguised as clouds or hiding in clouds. There's a lot of people who've mentioned that. I don't know if you've ever watched Belfast Bap. Belfast Bap he was a YouTuber. I don't know where he is now, but he used to film them. He used to actually capture them above Belfast, Northern Ireland, hence his name. Actually, they were lurking inside clouds. Yeah, inside a cloud is the perfect way to sort of be, because you're very close to the ground. You can get anywhere you want very quickly on the surface. Yet you're completely invisible to everyone on the surface. Yeah. In the case of Nope, it was an actual cloud. Yeah. Snarlock says on Skywatching the Triangle, Matthew Williams has night vision goggles. He said that he has seen interesting things in the sky. Yeah. That one would not normally see outside visible light spectrum. Maybe you can invite him onto your next Skywatch and visit Stack Rocks in his boat. The best way to contact him is via email. Oh, really? I've tried. Matthew's not an easy person to get hold of. I'll try emailing him. I've messaged him on Skype enough times. I'd like to interview him, actually, but it's pinning him down in one place for a long enough time. That's the problem. But yes, he has a good skywatching setup, and he does a lot of it, including the non-visible light, just as Nick Hayes does. He's captured some interesting thing in non-visible light. Skywatching, Snarnock. Interesting here that Michael is a skeptic. Did he vote Remain and get the V word as well? All right, Michael. Yeah, Michael was one of my hosts in Wales. He was a very nice chap. He was very, very tolerant of me. And Rhiannon says here, he's a staunch Brexiteer and was calling the pandemic before the BBC got its claws into the nation's collective conscious, which is just as well, as I don't think I could cope if he were on full normal. I've questioned him about, is he or isn't he a skeptic? And he informs me that he isn't a skeptic. He just isn't interested and doesn't think it would matter if aliens landed on the White House lawn. Yeah, he's part of what I would call the indifferent crowd, I think, Rhiannon, yeah. I find that a very odd attitude, and I'm not sure I entirely believe him. I suspect some form of defence mechanism may be at work. Yeah, I mean, you know him better than anyone. You may be right, yeah. Either way, saying you accept aliens exist and are here, but you don't think it matters, is only going to encourage Ben in demanding that the government give full disclosure. I had this debate with him, didn't I? Yeah, it wasn't on camera, but I did have a debate with him about that. As someone who tends to think there would actually be mass hysteria and potential breakdown of civilization if his disclosure did happen, I'm not going to encourage him to express this view. Michael is very weird. Most people aren't and would totally freak out. I'm not convinced that Michael would freak out too if interstellar life form suddenly appeared and demanded he hand over his vintage Jag. Oh, not the Jag, not the Jag. Oh, cool, no. He would if in that case. But you know, I think I'm actually at the point now, Rhiannon, where I do think that probably a large number of people, probably 50% or so, would shrug it off. They would probably be very indifferent to the whole thing. And I know you're reading Roswell Rising, and of course, there was a mass hysteria freak out in that book, in the early part of the book where disclosure first happens. However, I think I would probably I certainly write that part of the book very differently if I was writing that book today. I'd write it very differently indeed. So yeah, but good. Thanks, Rhiannon. Thanks for putting your side across there. Nope film review. Rick Horden says in Nope, really enjoy your reportage, Ben, especially this. I think it is one of your finest roving reports. Oh, thank you very much, Rick, and I'm so pleased you like it, considering obviously there was a massive technical cock-up, which it basically ended up with me filming the bloody viewfinder on the friggin' camcorder. That was awful. And I was using this microphone basically by the speaker. Oh dear. That's why I'm replacing that camcorder. It's obviously there's something wrong with it. I'll replace the film chip as well. Soylent Green Watch Party review. All right. And this is called Painted Jaguar. Oh right, Painted Jaguar. That's a good name. As of 2021, the population of the New York metropolitan area is over 20 million. It's not so relevant how many are actually inside the city limits, where real estate rents are so high that few can afford to be there. All right, Painted. I wasn't aware of how it's organised, because I know there's a city, New York City, but a conurbation beyond it. Like many large cities, the metropolitan area, as you say, where there was many more. Yes, I mean the big metropolitan areas now usually have tens of millions. So you're right. Yeah, and I mean of course. The actual these demarcations, these borders actually do depend on things like house prices, council tax, stuff like that. Yeah, but of course, in the Soylent Green did state New York City itself, there'll be a 29 million population, which obviously has not come true, as I explained in the actual review. Paul Armstrong, how you doing? How you doing, Paul? This is I've Met Slaxer, my latest video. It's like Avengers Assemble. It's like Avengers Assemble. Two of Cowley's finest minds come together to defeat the forces of evil. Yeah, exactly. And Slaxer said that made me chuckle, and Crafty Nihilist too did as well. And here also on Slaxer, Jamnoy72, my soul sister here, says, and I Met Slaxer. Did you just bump into each other? I'm glad you've met. About time. Lol. Be good to have a friend to hang out with. Hi, Dave. It was literally just coincidental. I mean, I knew it was bound to happen sooner or later, Jackie, with us living so close. But yeah, it was definitely. And Slaxer himself says, howdy. It went from 0 to 60 instantly. Intense people who recognise wisdom in each other, who sort of made each respective individual stop, think and react differently from time to time. Nothing but love. And he says, yes, a chance meeting. And Jamnoy says to Slaxer, wow, I love that. And big love, bro. Oh, yeah, thanks. And Slaxer says lots of love. Thanks, guys. That's a lovely thread there. And Slaxer says here on I've Met Slaxer, what is essence in you is essence in me. If one looks at the connection and not at what drives us apart, we are one. Fate at its finest. Maybe a podcast type live thing soon. Great to finally meet you. You too, mate. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be brilliant to do like some kind of StreamYard thing. I'd love to do that with you. Yeah, that'd be great. Mark Young says, I Met Slaxer. Slaxer is one of my favourite YouTubers. He's always genuine about how he feels about things. Glad you got the chance to meet him. I've been a subscriber for over 11 years and I've always found him interesting. Yes, Mark, true, isn't it? And Slaxer says, very kind words, Mark. All the best, mate. Yeah. Exhorter Bill, God, no, someone I've not heard from for a while, probably because he still, I know he still comments on Slaxer, but not on me, but now he's commenting here. Yeah. Definitely a close encounter for the YouTube history books. It really is, isn't it? Yes. And Diggler TC says, here on I Met Slaxer, who noticed whom first and what was said when you first saw each other in the street? It's good that you finally met each other now in person. It would have been weird if you had lived and died without actually meeting each other. It would, wouldn't it? I mean, it's been, 18 years since we've known each other. Mind you, we've only actually lived this close for probably about four or so of those years. But Diggler, when I just saw someone walking towards me, he said, "Hey, look!" I think he said, "Wow, Ben," or something. It's finally happened. I think that was his first words. I looked and I saw this little short guy with white hair and glasses. I thought, "Is that Slaxer? Oh my God, it's Slaxer!" Yeah. Marley Pumpkin says here on I Met Slaxer, who gives a fuck? Why do you wear that disgusting hat? Marley, why do you comment on my videos? You know, why do you comment on my videos, Marley? You know, you despise my videos, yet all you do is comment on them. You must watch them from beginning to the end. Jam Noise says here, why are you being this way? What happened to your day that makes you speak to another in such a way? Is it your head? Why should you care about Ben's hat? Exactly, Jackie. Why should he care about my channel? You know, if I have my hate watches, I know I do, you know, but I don't comment all the time on them. I just watch them. And Kevin Logan, I never comment on it. I just watch them and laugh. You watch and it drives you nuts. You say things like, "Oh, but pathetic," but you keep using the word pathetic. But you watch every video. You must. I bet you sub to me and you click the bell, don't you? And you watch avidly everything I do. You say it's pathetic. Well, what does that make you, Marley? And Slaxer says the psychology of the troll. Exactly. Yeah. And we have here on the same video, red explosions, historic moment indeed, not half. Yes, very, very, very historic. I mean, I couldn't believe it when it happened. I went, wow. It was like, it's like I really felt, you know, somehow I couldn't really see it happening. But of course, it's bound to happen, isn't it? That's why I called it amazing but inevitable. Bluebeam says on Nope, alien abduction movies don't have a lot to offer these days, more like horror movie scenarios like the Blair Witch Project. Yeah, well, this is what The Fourth Kind was. I thought The Fourth Kind was pretty good, but it tend to deal with the... I won't say it's not true, but it's not realistic, because it is realistic, unfortunately. But it did focus completely on the darkest element of the spectrum of contactee encounter experiences. Even Alien vs Predator is quite boring when it comes to that. I prefer real esoteric sci-fi that shows real stuff. Most abduction movies these days only use superficial aspects of UFOs to make a hunting story. I've watched the 2 trailers of Nope. Looks funny, but maybe that's all. Not really soft disclosure, Ben. No, Bluebeam, it's not any kind of disclosure. None at all. Apart from that one scene where Angel and OJ are talking, and Angel's talking about, like, wow, you know, about what UFOs are. He's a true believer, and OJ says, "Oh yeah, the Nimitz footage." That's probably the best part of the film. Actually, it was that one bit of dialogue. Met Slaxer, is it a registry office or a full church do for you two then? Stone circle in the woods. All garlic chips, I feel. Slaxer, I'm tempted to say to him, go on, he's probably picked a ring. But you know what, the registry office and a full church do to you. What's that a reference to, eh? Yeah. I can't believe how he does it. He's just gone off to teach Crichton how to play the piano. Yeah. Darren Retro is obviously a Red Dwarf fan like me, and just like me and Slaxer. Ginskin Pivot says on Alex Jones in court. Oh boy, what's this? It's quite a long comment. You're talking, I quote, this is a stitch up, Alex Jones is being framed. You're talking bollocks, Ben. Jones's defence team asked for email and company revenue information during the pre-trial discovery period. Jones later claimed under oath there were no text messages relating to SH, only partial revenue data was returned. On both counts this was false. Jones later said on the stand that he disagreed with the revenue data which had been supplied under discovery and could show more accurate data. The plaintiff's lawyer immediately responded that all revenue data, accurate or otherwise, had been asked for during discovery. Jones's lawyer did indeed ask the prosecution to disregard the mistakenly sent download link, but the plaintiff's team had no legal requirement to disregard information asked for, but not sent under discovery rules prior to that link becoming available. Jones's lawyer also failed to say under what legal qualification he wanted the plaintiff's team to disregard the information, and failed to claim it privileged or confidential. As it turned out, the plaintiff's lawyers destroyed medical and other records which are clearly confidential and not relevant. Jones thus lied under oath. He did not return all revenue data. He did not have no SH text on his phone. He was not bankrupt. Jones's lawyer did indeed ask for a mistrial, but this was rejected as he'd failed to qualify as legal grounds under which the download information should not have been presented. Jones later told his lawyer, while on the stand, that he was entirely happy with how he was being represented. It would be nice if the imbeciles who believe fake mass murders of people can take place just occasionally explain the rudiments of how you fool an entire community with a hoaxed atrocity. How you rope in EMTs, coroners, police, FBI, parents, family relations, the press, undertakers, government agencies, where births are registered, and the survivors from the scene. Then maybe tell us which US mass shooting in recent years was actually found to be staged. Go ahead, Ben, enlighten us. Alright, Jim, who is it? Jim Skin Pivot, I will enlighten you. Firstly, in the first 5 paragraphs, nothing you said there is actually false, except... Nothing you said there is factually false, and I don't dispute that, so I'm not talking bollocks, except what you don't realise is, or maybe you didn't realise, that the actual prosecution barrister, the plaintiff's lawyer, stated that the defence barrister had made no effort to prevent him from revealing the information that he'd achieved. Now you know, and it's true, and both of us know this, that the lawyer Alex's defence barrister asked the prosecution barrister to disregard the attachments, and he did not. He did not disregard them, and as you said, he wasn't obliged to disregard them. But the thing is, that's where it all stopped. And your explanation of why his proceedings stopped there doesn't make sense. He would have needed to make an effort, even simply as a gesture, and he didn't. So your explanation here makes no sense of why that's where that particular procedure ended. You've also another thing you got wrong. Where was it? Well, so I think the plaintiff's lawyer, the prosecution barrister, actually stated in in court himself that Jones's lawyer had made no effort and had done nothing. Okay. Apart from that, everything you said is true, and I know to dispute it. So I'm not talking bollocks at all. So I'm not actually disputed anything you said. You've either misunderstood, or you've either misunderstood the video, or you haven't watched it all properly. Or I think I'm hoping to give you the benefit of the doubt. I think you misunderstood it. Now the last paragraph, you're completely and utterly wrong. Right? You say it would be nice if the imbeciles who believe etc., just occasionally explain the rudiments of how you give a list of fooling a community, EMTs, coroners, police, etc. We have done more than explain it. We've actually given examples. The Manhattan Project. I mean, you could the number of people. That's one that immediately springs to mind. There are so many others about how you can get large numbers of people and win over their tacit compliance. I do recommend watching Sophia Smallstorm's. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called SH in 5 dimensions or something like that. I do recommend. Just put in Sophia Smallstorm SH, and it's all there. Everything you said here is explained. So I've enlightened you. And we have a thread here. I've met Slaxer. Jack Burns says, I've met Slaxer. I only discovered Slaxer's channel because of your back. I'm back watching Slaxer vid. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to help him out there. Glad to have two. He makes some good commentary, reflections on life videos. Not sure of his age, but he must be in my ballpark, so I can relate to it a lot. The changing times being one aspect. Slaxer says, cheers, mate. I'm 52 on Monday. Hey, Slaxer! Dave! Happy birthday for Monday, mate. Jack Burns says, happy birthday for Monday, Mr. S. On the Big 50. The Big 50 awaits me next year. Ah, it's just a number, but worryingly, the last 10 years have shot by. Time, yeah. You know, Jack, it's the quickening is continuing, isn't it? It's really... there's no reverse quickening, I'll tell you. It's notional time is definitely accelerating, and it's disturbing actually, because that technically means you have less of it. And Slaxer says, yeah, it's no big deal, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I actually did fall out. Slaxer and I have had our ups and downs, and we do clash, and we try to. When I clash with him, I try to do it in a civilized manner, and so does he. As a result, I didn't watch him I did watch him, but didn't comment for a while. I didn't watch as well. Then I went back to watching him. Yeah, and I'm glad I did. I've met Slaxer. Crafty Nihilist says, that is actually more exciting than Disclosure. Oh my goodness me. Oh, Crafty, that's pushing it a bit, but I'm glad you think so. I think not quite, but it's probably in the same ballpark, I'd say. Probably. I'm sure meeting Slaxer is a very close second. Snarnock said, Matthew Williams also has a drone. This is on Sky watching the Triangle. Matthew Williams also has a drone. Maybe it's better to use the drone rather than his boat to visit Stack Rocks. Yeah, I think so, Snarnock. I'll ask him about that. Because generally speaking, it probably wouldn't be safe to take a boat trip out there. Diego Rivera says, when I met Slaxer, Professor Simon Holland says Foo Fighters were plasma balls as a result of German radar. Yeah, I don't think they were, because they're not all just balls. Some of them are like structured craft. Stephen Truthseeker, Slaxer is a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal and... Sorry, is Slaxer a skeptic when it comes to paranormal and conspiracies? Not entirely, I don't think. No, I don't think he is. Oh, and Slaxer himself, let the man speak for himself. I am skeptical about anyone or anything that has questionable evidence, be it official, alternative, or of any origin. Well, I think that's a sensible way to go about it, Slaxer. I think it really is. So there's your answer, Stephen. Okay, I'm going to go to BitChute now. That's all the YouTube comments. I'm now going to do the usual in BitChute and just do a scroll through. So far, I've not, because we get notifications for comments. I can't think of a better way to do this, actually. Are we going to get it? I've got 27 minutes left. I want to try and get it inside 4 hours if possible, because then I have to make it a two-parter, which I don't like doing. Okay, I'm just scrolling through BitChute. I can always spot the comments because they have slightly larger, slightly larger notification titles, which is a big red, basically a big red capsule like a Tic Tac. Okay. Oh, it would comment UFO disclosure. Why now? I have a comment. Oh, I've got quite a few actually. Kurt 5on says, what's he say here? 24/9/22. So that's, I'm guessing that's the 24th of September 2022 this year. It's a date, it looks like. I'm guessing that's what it means. If those numbers mean something else, Kurt 5on, please tell me. What's special about that date? Oh, we also got another one, megawatt. Oh, megawatt. Yeah, I'll go through all these comments here on this particular video while I'm here. Megawatt, that's WHAT, says, my videos show Rome, Swiss activities on a megawatt on Instagram. I have real UFO shots in full view. Yet they have blocked them. I'll check out what's your channel? Oh, hang on. How do I open your channel? Megawatt, I'm afraid I can't open your channel page. I'm sorry. Could you post a link? Rapture Day says here. Here we go. I'll click. I always click like there. More rapture proof, plus the signs today. What's this? Is this gonna? I mean, I'm not. You see, I've done a whole video on this issue. Be ready, ripster for Christ.
the strongest evidence in the Bible.
Okay, proof of the pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, I'll check that out, because I don't know if you've seen my video Rapture Days called Apocalypse. If not, do watch it, because even though I probably don't share every element of your faith, but I'm very interested in this sort of thing. Let's carry on down. There we go. And my notifications on BitChute. Right, Alex Jones in court. We have a comment here. Oh, I've got three. Sane Man says, here we go. Yup, it's all theatre, the script being played out, leading up to American Civil War 2.0. Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is. This is a show trial. I don't think Alex is a part of that. So if you believe Alex is a part of that, then I have to disagree with you. But generally, yes, that's exactly what's happening. Radio Free 88 says AJ is a flaming. I can't say that. I'm afraid. Don't let that playing right-wing shit fool you. That's what he does for, and I can't say that word. Radio Free 88. No, you're wrong. I've done an entire video whose title is the word I can't utter, which explains why I think you're barking up the wrong tree there. Now, it doesn't mean you're a bad person for believing what you do. I just think it means because you probably believe in the New World Order and things like that, and you're quite right to. But I think you're pointing the finger at the wrong culprits. I really do. Please do check out my video on that. UV says 0439 Sir Piers Malmstrom. Oh, right, is that something I got? Let me just have a look. 439. Just scroll forward.
Okay, we're rolling, I think.
Let's go through here.
He says here, as you think,
God, I look
this is a
sweaty
state
in
event
this.
also, and most probably based on what people like Alex Jones said. Not entirely, no. In fact, Alex was not one of the best researchers into this. I would say the best work on this event was done by Sophia Smallstorm.
No. Oh, sorry. I think it's just the way I speak, and the microphone's not very good quality. It's Sophia Smallstorm. I'll actually write it out for you. Sorry about that. Sir Piers Malmstrom. I'm sorry, I really am. That made me laugh. Oh, bless you. Okay, let's carry on. Let's carry on down here. Oh, another one. Oh, sorry. That's another one on Alex Jones in court. I've already answered that. Scrolling down, guys. Sorry, there's actually no quicker way to do this. So I could honestly, I could just simply make a note of all the comment notifications I get and save them, but I don't know, maybe I'm just too lazy, and I must apologise for being lazy. I've got 896. It's alright, it won't take forever. You can get Sophia Smallstorm's video, by the way, on BitChute. It's also on Vimeo, amazingly. Obviously, it's completely banned from YouTube. Completely banned. I know, because I actually put a link in one of my articles, and I went and clicked it to see if it was still there. I put a link to the YouTube video, and it just said this video has been removed for breaching community guidelines, or something like that or other. And I replaced it with another copy. I did. Okay, down. Here we go. And that's it. Okay, that's all of BitChute. I'll just go back, and I won't forget to do what I forgot last week and say, mark all as read. Mark all as read. There we go. And delete all. There we go. All right, now on to Odyssey. Delete all, I said. Right. Okay, now we go on to Odyssey. Now the Odyssey method is very simple. I go to my notes, I go to the notes I made for the comments reply videos, which I make during the time in the inter-comments reply video situation. Now, how have I got here? Blah de blah. I've got a few here. Oh right. No, I've got no comments reply notes. That means, I think that actually means that yeah. So I can just with Odyssey, I know I have got some Odyssey comments. So with Odyssey, I shall simply go through my most recent uploads. I haven't needed to what's the word, to preserve any. Oh yeah, what's the time? Oh, I've got 20 minutes left. I think I may just get it inside the 4-hour mark. Okay, so Alex Jones in court. Now I know I have at least one. I've got a comment on one of my YouTube videos. I know from someone who often comments on YouTube for me.
Okay, we're rolling.
Oh, trust in. All right. Oops. We have trust nobody. Says here. I actually did put a text reply, but I'll read out. I'll read out trust nobody's comment here. Ben, if I ever had any doubts that dark forces can pull a psyop with the MSN cheerfully selling it as the truth, whether the aim is gun control or demonising a particular group, then those doubts were swept away when I saw a scratchy video of a supposed car bombing that killed a bunch of bystanders. The video came from a security camera the psyop organisers hadn't noticed. As the car bomb goes off, the van pulls up, and innocent bystanders jump out and lie on the ground playing dead. I've seen that, yes. There's actually companies and organisations and companies that actually do this for drills and things, and they're sold as the real thing. Maybe they were waiting for a playmate to tag them so they could get up and start running around the playground again. Tig them, yeah. The duplicity of the MSN isn't shocking. I equate shock with surprise. And who could be shocked by the MSN peddling lies? Exactly, you know, trust nobody. This is why, when it comes to the MSN, I trust nobody. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't. I mean, I just dislike it intensely, but I'm kind of used to it. The correct term would be infuriating. I feel yes. I feel somewhat insulated in my little bunker. No TV for over 20 years, no radio, no newspapers. But even I can't live in complete isolation. I envied Earl Holliman's character in the TZ episode Where Is Everybody? Oh, yeah, Twilight Zone, yes. That was Burgess Meredith plays this guy, the guy with the glasses who loves reading, and he suddenly finds himself in a library where he's the only man left alive on Earth, and he breaks his glasses and he goes, "That's not fair!" Oh, God, yeah. And if you believe the S word, I can't say that, the S-demic, as RDH calls it, RD Hall calls it, it's a total psyop, then one way or the other the dark forces will get us. Well, I don't think they're going to succeed, trust nobody, but you're absolutely right. I absolutely share your sentiments entirely. And the thing about the fake victims, true, that was actually part of a drill, which was basically the same drill, the same drill footage was used, and people pretended it was real. Yeah, and that happens. I bet that happens a hell of a lot. And Richard D. Hall, no one's done better than Richard D. Hall in exposing this. Okay, Sky watching the Triangle on Odyssey. 2 comments. Trust nobody says. Oops, just gonna hit pause on that. I did leave him a text reply by good stuff, Ben. I think this is going to go over the 4-hour mark, you know, guys. It's a lovely part of the world, and as soon as you mentioned Gorsanon on your road trip, I immediately thought of Colin Jones, the hard-hitting welterweight boxer who fought for the world title with Milt the Silt McCrory. Oh, I'm not a boxing aficionado, but I do like boxing, but I don't know all the history of it. Shame about the chemtrails. I was walking home shopping at 24-hour shop. It was early morning and the sky was crisscross full right over our estate. I was livid. You know, trust in nobody. They tend to do it in early morning, I've noticed. Another day, a plane was flying low, starting a steep vertical climb, and began spraying. I passed a woman at the bus stop and pointed it out. I said it was far too low to be a contrail. The thing was climbing too steeply to be a civilian carrier. There was no farmland in our area. We are the bugs being sprayed. Yeah. And asked what she thought about being sprayed without her permission. Naturally, she was angry and said she'd seen chemtrails but never realised what they were. I bet she could tell me the current storylines of every soap and who just outed who, etc. Oh, God, yeah. Bread and circuses, isn't it? Bread and circuses. It makes me think of that saying about being like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed on shit. There are still a lot of people whose main use of the internet is for twatter and the like, and they get their news from major disinformation specialists like the BBC. I know it's a steep hill to climb, trust nobody, but you never know. She may come round and she might be the 100th monkey. You never know. UFO disclosure 2022. Why now? One comment is trust nobody. Oh, good old trust nobody. Trust nobody. You are good to me on. Oh, I've got to give him a love heart. I haven't actually replied. I normally put in a text comment when someone does that. and trust nobody says here, Ben, because my mind works in crazy ways, my immediate response to the question, why now, would always be to suspect a government working in magician's feint and sleight of hand. If you were one of the bastards running this planet and could see the whole worldwide epidemic running out of steam, the proles getting based and so on, or blasé and so on, your big lie of saying, hey folks, your lives are in danger, but we could save you, but only if you would do exactly as we say, then maybe it would be the time to come clean on alien incursions and swap a killer V word for a possible invasion. Absolutely. You know, trust in nobody. I've actually said this in my disclosure, some of my past UFO disclosure videos. The most likely disclosure, unfortunately, that we will get initially will be fake disclosure. In my book, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, available at all good bookshops now, price £10, this is the scenario in the book, of course. If you've read it, you know, and you will read it, of course. This could be what we're seeing could be a part of that. And you know what? If they're desperate, they would do something. The fake alien invasion scenario, I say with a completely straight face, because it is 100% plausible. It really is 100% plausible. They would do it. If they were desperate enough, they would do it. Of course, it would have to be a kind of double or quit situation, but we're kind of getting there, aren't we? Trump FBI raid live stream. Now something. I've had all 3 comments. There we go. Shelley of the Red. Hi, Shelley. How you doing? I did put a text comment here for Shelley. She often replies she often comments and replies on my videos about Trump. No fear. Ultra MAGA is here. Yeah. All the fascist, socialist forces, both nationalist, Bush and Cheney, and leftist, Clinton, Obama, Biden, may want to rule the US and world, but the new right populists, sick of all the world rule and secrecy, are finally red-pilled with strong MAGA to vote for. Check out like Joe Kent, Harriet Hageman, Kerry Lake, etc. I will do, Shelley, thank you. And say what you will about Trump. He's not just after the unipolar world rule corporate fascism that believes in goose stomping over constitutions and homogenous cultures and taking all private property and wages. The Bushes always stood down while playing they were of the people, took all the various fascist revealings in their hands the last 6 years. Now the people see it and are coming for them, and it doesn't depend on Trump, because we were coming for them from the bottom up, one by one through the states, with Trump just being a figurehead spark that exposes the battle. Quite so, Shelley. I mean, this is not just Trump is the leader of this, but you know, it's not dependent on him as such, and he must know that, because he must. I mean, I pray every day for his safety, but he must know that this is more than just him, and I think hopefully the bad guys will as well, which is why they will spare him, and why because they may know that it'll backfire. So if they JFK him, as Styx Hexenhammer says, it'll backfire on them beyond anything they can imagine. And Shelley says here, typing on the phone here, forgive the choppy reading. That's quite all right, Shelley. Thank you very much for your comment, your uplifting and comment, which I agree with completely. I really do feel, as I said in this video, and in a couple of the Alt Tech exclusives, I feel really good about what's going on. Nope, film review. Takes a while to load. No comments. Finally, I've met Slaxer. No comments. Okay, so let's go to Rumble. Now I've got to be a bit careful with Rumble, because I've actually been uploading some old ones from 2020. So I'm going to have to. Where are we now? I can't see them. Where are they? Oh, 2. Oh, I see. I've got to choose different pages. Okay. Okay, so here we go. What's that? Oh, Alex. Okay, I'll go with this one first. Alex Jones in court. No comments. All right. Reply to comment 62. No comments. Okay, so now I'll go back to page 1, because all of them must be on page 1. I've got to scroll down because I've got like so many old videos here. Sky watching the triangle. No comments. FBI, Trump FBI raid live stream. No comments. UFO disclosure 2022, why now? No comments. Nope film review. No comments. I've met Slaxer. No comments. I've had no right. Okay, so that's Rumble sorted. I'm just going to go back to YouTube now and do a quick refresh and go through any comments that have been posted during the shooting of this particular video. So let's go back and go through to notifications.
Out here and encourage and email it.
Shut up, Clive. Okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Where are we now? Okay. Alright, so I know where I'm going for, because there's Diego Rivera's comment about Foo Fighters. John Fused says, handsome. Oh, is that me or you? Thank you very much. Oh, Chris Hansen. Alright, Chris. Hansen. Are you the one who said you like Chris Hansen? Annoying bastard, it says on Jacob's Ladder. Watch party introduction. Can't wait. Alright. You may be a bit disappointed when you see what I have to say. David Smith says on reply to comment 62, I am a prophet. Oh, let me bow before you, great prophet. It is David the prophet. Cornelius Cruz says on Alex Jones in Court, in reply to me saying there's going to be a reply. Who cares? Oh, charming. Well, don't watch it if you don't want to. No one's forcing you, are they? Okay, that's it, guys. That's it. Thank you very much for all your comments. They've been great. I've had great fun. Even the rude ones were good fun. So much appreciated. And obviously, it goes without saying, you know, if you didn't make these comments, what would this video be? It wouldn't even exist. Much appreciated. There's more coming very soon. Check out the videos that I'm going to do a live. I've got to do the cryonics live stream. I can't keep putting it off. I've got to do it. Things keep getting in the way. I'll do the cryonics live stream very soon. Thank you all for watching HPANWO TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.